Hey everyone, zetamath here. Uh, One of the most popular things I've done on this channel is I posted a video of me setting the puzzle The Usual Suspects from start to finish. Now, I think that video is pretty cool. There's a link in the description if you want to go look at it. But it's been a while, and in particular, back when I did that, I don't think I had this nice microphone. I didn't have this nice camera and camera stand and all these sorts of things. Also, that puzzle's basically a vanilla killer puzzle, so in some sense, it doesn't give you a whole lot of idea of how to set something a little bit more weird. So I had an idea for a puzzle that I've been kicking around in my head for a week or so now, and I'm going to try and show you my process of setting it. So I'm going to set it. I don't think I'm going to get this done in a day, especially because I have an appointment in a few hours. So I'm going to start today, and then I'll record each time I work on this puzzle, and then at the end, hopefully, my loving husband will edit it down into something consumable so that you can see the sort of the process of setting this puzzle. Okay. Of course, there's a very high likelihood that this puzzle will never turn into a puzzle, in which case you'll never see any of this. But just so you know up front, maybe half the ideas I have for puzzles actually turn into puzzles, depending on the day. All right, so let me start with what the idea for this puzzle is. So the idea for this puzzle was inspired for me originally by, I was doing a puzzle by Glum Hippo the other day where there were some cages and there were dots relating, in that case there were diamonds actually, relating the totals of the cages. And that reminded me of a puzzle, and so I'm just going to show you one puzzle. This is by Willy Wonka on LMD. And so here in this puzzle, what you can see is there are all of these cages. Sorry, I'm trying to highlight the grid, and that's not going to work. And then between the cages, there are crappy dots. But the dots do not refer to the digits like they normally do. So this black dot would normally say the digit in this cell and the digit in this cell have a ratio of 1 to 2. That's not what it means in this puzzle. In this puzzle, it means the total of this cage and the total of this cage have a ratio of 1 to 2. Likewise, with this white dot, what it says is that the total in this cage and the total in this cage are consecutive. Uh, and I've seen a whole bunch of different puzzles with this basic idea. This is just the first one I found when I Googled for one. But I want to do a puzzle that is exactly like this, except I want to not give the cages. So the rules are going to look something like this. They're going to be something like normal Sudoku rules apply. And I always hit save compulsively because if you accidentally X out of the text button in F puzzles, then you'll lose all the information. And so then I want to say, draw some killer cages into the grid. So that, and so I want to specify now something like so that both sides of every dot belong to a killer cage. So I'm specifying here that there's the person who's looking at this puzzle they're going to be seeing some dots in the grid. Who knows what they'll look like? Maybe we'll have like something like that and that and that, and something like that and that and that. And so the rules need to start by saying, okay, we're going to draw in some cages so that every cell that is on a dot is part of a cage. Okay. Now I want to specify every cell is part of at most one killer cage. Just so that it's clear that when I'm describing these killer cages, I don't have, say, a green killer cage here and a pink killer cage over here. That would cause all kinds of problems, and you'd be in some sort of playmaker puzzle if you were doing that. Okay. So killer cages are orthogonally connected and do not overlap. Okay. I'll repeat the usual rule here. Killer cages do not contain repeated digits. just so that that's there. And then we're going to go ahead and then we're going to go ahead and spell out what the dot means. Okay, so a white dot between two cages indicates that their totals are consecutive. And likewise, a black dot between two cages indicates that their totals have a ratio of 2 to 1. Now, I think that if I just kept the rule set exactly like this, I think there would be a big problem in getting the puzzle to actually solve, which has to do with a problem that if you've ever set a polyomino puzzle before, you might know quite well, which is the monomino problem. So there's always this problem that if I make a one-cell killer cage, it doesn't impose a lot of constraints on the geometry. And so you need a whole lot to sort of rule out that possibility. And so a lot of these puzzles, you'll see various constraints. And if you look at my puzzles, you'll see I've done things like there can only be one monomino, or every cage has size at least 3, or there's variations. The variation I want to use for this puzzle, that I'm pretty sure will rule out monominos almost everywhere, is that I'm going to say every killer cage contains its size as a digit. And then I'll just spell that out, e.g., a cage of size 3 contains a 3. Now, this doesn't mean there can't be a monomino, but it does mean that if there is a monomino, that it refers to something of size 1, and then it just is a 1, and then that's probably going to rule everything out. Okay. Now, there are some things I just don't know yet, so I'm pretty sure at the end of the day, I don't want every cell to be part of a polyomino or part of a killer cage, but I might. I'm not sure yet. So I'm really just sort of throwing these down as a way of communicating the words that are in my brain and the ideas in my brain that I have as I'm starting to set this puzzle. And so then hopefully we're on the same page as I start this. And as I said in my setter video, and I do this all the time, I might completely change these rules. I have some extra rules that I might use. We'll see what it takes to do this. All right. Now, certainly this would never be the complete rule set because it doesn't specify like every cage is on a dot or anything like this. So I don't think that I could, I don't think I could possibly make the solution unique as far as the cages with just this, but I'm sure there will be more. I just want to figure it out as we start. All right. So this piece of software is fpuzzles. There are basically 3 pieces of software that you're likely to see floating around when it comes to Sudoku setting and solving. This is fpuzzles. It's fpuzzles.com. This is currently the most featureful Sudoku setter. There is Penpa, or Penpa Plus, which I'm going to be using, and I'll explain why I'm using it in a bit. And then you're probably used to doing puzzles in Cracking the Cryptic. So you'll have Sudoku Pad here, and this is probably what you're used to doing puzzles in. Now, as it currently sits, Sudoku Pad does not let you set puzzles. It only lets you solve puzzles. But in the process of solving puzzles, it has some features that are going to be very useful for this particular puzzle. Namely, it is going to let me draw in things like the borders of a killer cage. And so this ability to draw on borders is something that is going to be very useful to someone who is solving this puzzle. Okay. Now, this puzzle, I'm going to be sort of showing you stuff in fpuzzles. Fpuzzles doesn't let you draw on borders. That is not an option in fpuzzles. Now, what I can do in fpuzzles is I can shade stuff. So I could say these are part of a cage, but I can't indicate that I know that this cage is cut off. So when I eventually publish this puzzle, I'm going to provide the link to it in the CTC app so that people have access to things like the border tool. But in order to set it, I want to have access to the border tool, but I can't set something in SudokuPad currently, so I'm going to set it in Penpa where I do have a border tool. All right. So you can do something like that in Penpa, it'll be fine. I could even make it green and do that, and it'll be more like what it'll eventually look like, or I could do the thicker black like that, and so that even lets me sort of do it over those. Except I'm not going to go over the edge that's already there. All right, so basically, and this is something that happens for a lot of puzzles, I'm going to set it myself mostly in Penpa, and then I'm going to publish it in SudokuPad. SudokuPad, I should note, is made by Sven, and Sven is planning to add support for people to set stuff in it, so you'll have access to all of this. So my hope is that by the time this video actually comes out, or not too long thereafter, you'll be able to skip this step where you do stuff in Penpa. And you'll be able to just do everything in SudokuPad, which is ultimately my dream for all of this. Okay. So, but we can't do that yet. So anyway, that's why I'm going to be using Penpa, but I'm not going to talk a lot about Penpa features, mostly because I think you probably won't be setting Sudoku puzzles in Penpa very much in the future. But currently it is something that we need. Okay. So all of that very, very long introduction out of the way. How on earth am I going to start this puzzle? And I'm going to start this puzzle by putting in at least one Kropke dot. So I'm going to put in a small circle, and I'm going to put in a circle. Oops, not there. Oh, I need to put draw on edges on. I'm going to put in a small circle there. Now I'm putting in a gray circle for the reason that I don't actually know if I want this dot to be white or black. But I do know I want a dot here, or at least that's sort of my original idea, because that forces me to, of course, start a cage here and start a cage here, which gives me an edge here and here and here and here, of course. But now, the reason I included the rule about a cage containing its size is that if this blue cage stopped, then it would be a 1 here, and then I would need the total of this cage to be 2, but I can't make the total of the cage 2 without it also being size 1, but a size 1 cage would, of necessity, have to have a 1 in it, and so then it would have to have a 1 and a 2, and that's not going to work. So basically, the entire reason why I wanted that rule is so that I can do things like automatically this cage extends. Can come down here, and we can put another blue cell. We can carry on the edge over down there. Okay, so this cage is now at least size 2. Now I've made this dot gray, actually, because I don't know if I want to say that these two cages have consecutive totals or a ratio of 2 to 1. I don't know yet. It will be one of those. But so far, this deduction is forced regardless of which of those it is. Now we have an interesting next question. And this next question is actually something that came up from Willy Wonka's puzzles. I skimmed the rules when I looked at Willy Wonka's puzzle that I found earlier. And I'll note Willy Wonka included a negative constraint, which is that every possible dot is given. And I'd not thought of that at all. But I actually realize it does something very interesting here if I do impose a negative constraint, which is that yellow here also has to grow. Well, what if yellow grows down? Well, if yellow grows down, then what I learn is that these two cages, well, it's the same two cages, so they'd better have the same dot or a similar dot between them. So if there's not a dot, that means actually yellow can't grow down, and we actually gain some information. So I think I'm going to actually steal that idea from Willy Wonka, and I think I'm going to say all possible dots between cages are given. Okay. And I'll be sure when I write this out, by the way, this is in no way the final wording of this. That will certainly be more clearly communicated. But I'm going to do it here so that I know that now yellow can't come down. Yellow also can't contain, yellow can't be just a single one, so yellow has to continue over like that. Okay, and so we have at least a little bit in the grid. Now, here I'm going to note, and I'm going to use the edge helper X. I'm going to put an X here, and the X is just for me. And the X is there to tell me, hey, you used the fact that there was not a dot here in order to get where you are. So if I go to later put a dot in here, I need to go back and think about how I used it. This would not be in the puzzle. This is just a me setting the puzzle, thinking about it, note to myself. Okay. Now, what I am noting here is that actually blue, oops, sorry, I'm in the wrong mode. Blue can't extend to this cell if I don't put a dot here. But what I actually think would create the most tension is if instead of creating a dot here, if I did put a dot here, but I made it a different color dot than that dot. So I think I'm going to do that. So I'm going to go to small of these circles, and we're going to put, and then this is going to be the other dot, whatever the other dot is. So one of these is white and one of them is black. I don't know which is white. I don't know which is black, but one is each. And now the only way that I could have either a white dot or a black dot between the same two sums is if those sums were 1 and 2. Well, these cages don't have totals 1 and 2, so I don't have to worry about that. So the existence of a dot here tells me that blue can't come here. Oops, sorry, normal. Blue can't come to this cell. And so yellow can't come to this cell either. And so this is a new cage. Let's make this cage red. Okay. And again, just a reminder, these dots, one of them is white and one of them is black. In the final puzzle, one will officially be white and one will officially be black. I just don't yet know which is white and which is black. All right, so I'm pleased with the amount of geometry that we have just from these two dots so far. But I have to think now, can one of these cages now stop? And the answer is almost certainly one of these cages can now stop, but they can't both stop. And they can't both stop because if one of them stops, it needs to contain a 2, because remember, every cage needs to contain its size. Okay, so I think here's one thing I can do. So I can put no dot here. Let me go ahead and mark that. I think I'm going to put no dot here. So no dot there is going to tell me that red can't continue over to this cell because then there would need to be the same dot between red and yellow. So no dot here means red ends here. All of our usual arguments tell us that red can't be size 1, because if red was size 1, again, it would need to be consecutive or a ratio of 1 to 2 with yellow, and that's not possible if it's only of size 1, because it would have to contain a 1, so red has to grow. And now, what I can do that I saw is I can put a dot here of some sort. So I'm going to go to shape, and I am going to put a dot there. And now the reason why I do that is because I know that red and blue do not share a dot relation. Okay. Again, by the way, I now have no idea if this is white or black, this is white or black, and this is white or black, and I don't actually care if this dot is the same as that dot or that dot. So I've just used yet another dot just to say there is some dot here. I don't care what it is. But the existence of a dot here tells me red can't go that way. And it also tells me blue can't come down here, because if blue came down here, again, whatever this dot is, it would also have to repeat there. So that's going to force blue to have an edge here. Red's going to have an edge here. Now, there's another cage that has started here. I'm going to make it purple. Again, for all the usual reasons. This needs to continue down. And I note that now I know that blue contains a 2. So I'm going to corner mark a 2 in blue, because the size of blue is 2. Now both yellow and red, and for that matter purple, all of these need to have size larger than 2. They all need to have size at least 3. So these things all need an extra cell. So let's see, is anything else here forced, or would I force anything interesting if I actually started filling in what these dots have to be? So this cage here, its sum is between 3 and 11. I know that. So this number that's between 3 and 11, it has a relationship with this yellow sum that is either 2 to 1 or consecutive. I don't know which. Interesting. Okay, so I have to remind myself, by the way, as I'm doing this, I'm sure I'm going to screw this up. The yellow here, the X does not mean that yellow doesn't come down. The X only means that I used the fact that there is not a dot there. Okay. Both red and yellow have to grow. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with that. How am I going to decide which one grows where? Or how am I going to force which one grows where? So here's what I notice. If I make it so that red has to grow to the right, then yellow can't grow here anymore because of the absence of dots. And so then yellow will be forced to grow across, and that will do a whole bunch of damage. I could just put a dot of some description here on this border to lock that in. Oh, here's what I can do. I can lock purple in. So if I put a dot down here of some description, again, I don't care what kind of dot. I just want a dot here to force purple to continue over. And again, just to reiterate, the reason why purple is forced over, the reason why purple is forced over is because if purple stopped, then it would need to have a 2 in it, and it can't because there's a 2 pencil marked in blue. So purple needs to continue over here. That's going to force my normal thicker edge to go over there, and over there, over here as well. And now red is also going to be forced to continue over. So we'll go over like that. Because we know red can't go up, because if red went up into this cell, it would touch yellow, and red and yellow are in a dot relation. So everywhere they touch, they need to have a dot. But now yellow is also forced to extend, and yellow can't extend down here now. So now really, yellow really can't extend down here, because if yellow extends down here, there've got to be dots all over the place between yellow and red. So yellow has to extend here. Again, the reason why yellow and red have to extend is because if they didn't, they would need to contain a 2, and the 2 in this box is gone. Okay, so now actually yellow is becoming interesting because yellow is now at least 3 cells. So yellow sums to a minimum of 6. So I'm somewhat interested in what's going to happen with this yellow being in relation to this. If I can make yellow take another cell, for example, then yellow's going to have a minimum sum of 10. This has a maximum sum of 11. That would sort of force exactly what combination of those things we got if I put a white dot between them, say. So I'm eyeing the arithmetic here between the blue region and the yellow region. Thinking about this. Okay. Oh, I realize I've already made a mistake with my own rule set. Which is that I should have a dot here. Because if I don't have a dot here, I've already broken my own rules because red and purple are touching and they're not allowed to touch. So I'm going to unwind to where I made that mistake and see what I could do. So I wanted to force, so looking back here, I wanted to force purple over. But purple actually can't go over as long as there's not a thing here. So there is actually more to do that I didn't notice. So namely, the lack of a dot here means purple can't extend over here. So let's use that and let's see what that happens. So and so now purple still has to extend because again, purple, so just like before, purple has size bigger than 2 because blue is already eating up the 2. So purple needs to extend down to there at least. Okay, and now that we've realized this, actually, red actually was already forced, even before I did anything else. Red was already forced to go to the right, because if red goes down, now it shares a border with purple, where I'm going to use the fact that there's not a border. And so red, again, needs to have size more than 2, so red, oops. So red needs to come over here in order to have size more than 2. And red can't go up to here, because then it would touch yellow, and it's not allowed to. And yellow now, again, because yellow has to have size more than 2, yellow has to grow, yellow can't grow down there, so yellow's forced to grow over. So we get that, like that. Okay. So already we can see I'm making mistakes with my own rule set. That is always slightly troubling, but we'll get there. I did not actually fill in the edge, but we actually do have an edge here on red, owing to the fact that we said these don't go down like that, because then red and purple would touch again, and they're not supposed to touch again. So we're now basically back where we were, but I didn't have to add an extra clue to get here once I actually paid attention to what was happening. Really, actually, just the rules plus these 3 dots. This is only with 3 clues, and we've already forced all of this, which is pretty awesome. I am slightly worried that I'm going to get down to here, and suddenly the negative constraint is going to eat me alive because I'm going to have a million dots that are forced. But we'll worry about that bridge when we come to it. Now, here's where I'm really tempted to do something that I think I ought not do, which is I'm really tempted to say that every cell is part of a killer cage. And if I say that every cell is part of a killer cage, I could do lots more because I could fill in, this has to be part of a killer cage. It's not any of those, so it's going to extend over. And then I could look at those sorts of things. Here's where I think that's a bad idea. I think it's a bad idea because I worry that I'm going to get to the end of the puzzle and then I'm not going to be able to complete the grid because I'm going to need to put the size of every omino in the omino, or the size of every killer cage in the cage, and that's going to break. I'm not worried about that breaking if not every cell is part of a killer cage. But if every cell really is part of a killer cage, then suddenly that becomes a problem. So that's why I'm not adding that rule, is I think that the combination of that with the rule about killer cages containing their size would create a huge problem. So now my question is, what am I to do with this? So I'm now sort of trying to contemplate, okay, what do I want these dots to actually B, because I want to start getting some numbers in the grid so that we can play with numbers, which means I need to decide if these 3 dots are white or black. I think it makes the most sense to make this dot white, because if this dot is white, then again, the maximum this cage can be is 2 and 9. So it would make the maximum of this size, or the maximum of this cage, 12 in total. And then if I make this a ratio dot, which I would have to, because remember I need to make these 2 different, then that puts some constraints on what this could possibly be. Okay, so I'm going to try it that way. I reserve the right to switch this, but I'm going to try it this way. So I'm going to try making this the one that's consecutive, and this the one that's a ratio. So now red sums to at most 24. So now I can sort of think about the Glum Hippo puzzle and think about like what's the minimum in this situation that red can sum to, because yellow is max 12. So red is at the absolute maximum 24. On the other hand, what's the minimum of yellow? I guess yellow could yellow still be 6? Yellow cannot still be 6, actually. I really want to force something to be maximum or minimum just so that someone doesn't have to go through all the possibilities. I'm sort of mentally going through the possibilities now. If this were 6, it would have to be 1, 2, 3. But then this would have to be 5, which would be 2, 3. Or I guess it could be 7. And I don't really want to get too nitty-gritty. So I think I want to force yellow to have an extra cell. Now, the amusing thing is, I know how to force yellow to not have an extra cell. It's not actually immediately apparent to me how I force yellow to have an extra cell. Now, one way I could force yellow to have an extra cell, actually, is to put a given 3 somewhere up here. That seems a little heavy-handed to me, but it is an option. An extra 3 there would force yellow to have size at least 4. See, but I do want to steal one thing that Glum Hippo's puzzle that was like this that really sort of inspired me. One thing that puzzle did a lot was to have cages where sort of it was a 5-cell cage, but the maximum value it could have because of the dots was 15, so you'd get the digits for free. I'd love to be able to do something of that sort here. I don't know how yet. I'm not certain that I will actually be able to, but if I can, I would like to be able to. Okay, so my brain keeps coming back to this cell and asking, can this cell be part of a cage? Is there a way I can answer that? Okay. So first of all, I want to note, I absolutely cannot put a dot here. Because if I put a dot here between these 2 cells, then again, it would force this to be a 1, because it would now be a 1-cell cage, and I'd need the cell to be a cage that summed to 2, but contained its size, and that combination is not going to work. So it's a weird idea. What if I put a black dot here? If I put a black dot here, my question is, does that force red to come up and take those cells? Because that would be interesting. That would create an interesting pressure on these cages if red had to come up here, because then it would force, I think, that red has a larger size than yellow, and that would sort of force the arithmetic a little bit more. But I don't know that a black dot here doesn't allow another cage here to also have a ratio of 1 to 2 with yellow as things currently stand. You'll note, by the way, that this is just a random setting note. I almost always start setting in the top left corner unless there is a reason not to, which means if you're solving one of my puzzles, starting at the top left corner is often a good idea. I don't think most solvers really benefit from hiding where they're supposed to look at the start. So this puzzle, presumably the break-in will be up here. Although noting that there's a negative constraint in the puzzle means that there could be a break-in somewhere else that ends up being forced into the puzzle. We'll see. I'm now looking at a dot here and thinking about, because that forces there to be a cage that starts here and goes down. And I'm wondering if that is interesting in what it's going to do. I'm going to just try putting it in and see what happens, see if I like it or not. I'm going to put a dot here. So that forces there to be a new cage starting here. So green would have to come down at least that far. An interesting thing is I don't actually know if this cell is red or not immediately. No, I do know if this cell is red. Because if this cell was red, there would be a dot between green and red, and there would need to be a dot here, which there cannot be. So actually, this cell is not red. This is another color. Now, this actually does a lot, I am realizing. Because now, if I use the fact that there's not a dot here, now orange is forced to continue. Orange can't go down. Green can't go over. So orange is going to come over here. Now, I was excited because I thought that was going to mean that red was going to have to end, but there's not a dot between red and orange, so there not being a dot here wouldn't do anything. So what I want to do is I want to put a dot here, I think, that will force red to end. So let's put a dot, and again, I'm not going to be picky about what kind of dot. I'm just going to put a little gray dot there. So that now means that red can't continue over to here. This is an edge between blue and orange. I don't know if these two dots are the same or different or whatever. I just put a dot there. So I've not decided yet exactly what kind of dot it wants to be when it grows up. And so now, with this, I have a 3 in here because this is size 3. Now, unfortunately, yellow now could have a 3 if that 3 is exactly right here. Otherwise, yellow has to get bigger. And I just know, as I'm doing this, that I'm going to come up with cage totals, and then it's accidentally going to happen that two cages that are next to each other that don't have dots are going to end up having cage totals that require a dot, and then I am going to be very sad. But we will we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, I suppose. I would love for this 3 to do something for me. To like force something to be bigger than 3. But sadly, this silly yellow cell over here hanging out of the world is annoyingly stopping that from happening. Now, I could go off the rails here, and I could put a given digit here, which might do something in terms of forcing the totals of yellow and blue. Okay, so actually, now I want to think about it, because now red actually has a maximum value of something. Red's maximum value is now sitting at 20. So if red is max 20, then unless yellow goes way over here, I think yellow is going to want to be 10. Okay, let's work this out. Okay, so again, blue is a max of 11. So yellow is nominally a max of 12. Except if yellow was 12, then I would need red to be 24, which it can't be, or 6, which it can't be, because there's a 2 already going over here. So yellow can't actually be 12. Yellow likewise can't be 11, because if yellow is 11, it would force this to be 22, which it can't be. So yellow can't be 12 or 11. So now actually, yellow's actually now max 10. So yellow either takes one more cell or yellow is done. Those are the only options for yellow. And if yellow takes one more cell, it has to be exactly 1, 2, 3, 4. So this would have to be a 1, 4 pair in order for yellow to be a 4-cell 10 cage, which would require yellow put a 2 and a 3 over here, which would be interesting. I will grant, because if yellow puts a 2 and a 3 over here, then it constrains a whole bunch of other cages and gives us something to play with. So this is interesting. The yellow total is quite constrained. So I'm going to make myself a little note here somewhere in little itty bitty font. Yellow is max 10. What's the minimum that yellow can be? Maybe that's also an interesting question. So if yellow is minimum, this cell has to be a 3. Because if yellow is minimized, its size is 3. So this would be a 3, 1, 4. So yellow is actually minimum 8. So that's actually very interesting. So yeah, looking at it, yellow's actually only options are 8, 9, and 10. And so we can look at those and we can look at this box here and say, okay, for yellow being 8, 9, and 10, what are the consequences of that on the value of this cage? Well, if yellow is 8, this cage needs to sum to 16. If yellow is 9, this cage needs to sum to 18. And if yellow is 10, this cage needs to sum to 20. So this cage actually now sums to a minimum of 16. This cage is always, in particular, red is always the bigger cage out of yellow and red. Red is the bigger cage. So this is 16, 18, or 20. So I'll go ahead and write in a number again. 16, 20 is the min and max of this. So so blue now is a minimum of 7, a maximum of 11. Just to sort of record these things for myself so that I remember them. Okay, so I think we can do something interesting because I think now if I make this dot black, it creates some amount of tension. This is now a number that is in a 1 to 2 ratio with 16, 18, or 20. But it can't be the number that is half that. It has to be double that because yellow is the number that's half that. And yellow is white dotted with blue. So if yellow and purple were equal, then there would be a white dot here, and they're not. So actually, these both being black forces that this total is actually now min 32 and max 40. So 32, 36, or 40. Those are the options for this. Okay, so that's very interesting. So we found a good way to take advantage of our black dots here. To do a neat little logical connection between this total and this total. Now, in particular, if purple is min 32, purple needs to grow, and not even just by one cell, because purple needs to now have at least 5 cells in order to make its life journey complete. Okay, and who knows? Maybe purple is 40 and purple needs to have 7 cells or 8 cells. Those are both options. And now we have to start being very careful with our dots. Because we don't want to break the puzzle if we can avoid it. Inevitably, we will break this puzzle, but I would like to not break the puzzle until very late in the path rather than breaking it early in the path. That would be my preference. So green is under a lot of pressure because green only has one outlet. So green either grows to here or doesn't. And there's all kinds of ways I can create a cage by putting a dot somewhere touching purple that then has to also be enormous because a white dot cage with purple would need to have, again, an enormous number of cells. It would need to have at least 5 cells. So that is itself quite interesting. See, the thing is, I could so easily force green to stop here, but I feel like it's much more interesting if green keeps growing. But I'm not sure yet. So yellow always contains a 3, interestingly, because yellow either is size 3, in which case it contains a 3 by the rules, or The only other option is that yellow is a 4-cell 10 cage, in which case yellow contains 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we can actually corner mark a 3 in one of these two cells, because the 3 that yellow contains... Oh, no, sorry, it could be there. Sorry. We can corner mark a 3 in one of these cells. Because yellow definitely contains a 3. So that's interesting in that it means that, for example, blue can't have size 3 unless it finds its way out of this box. Unfortunately, blue having size 2 still seems very possible, as best I am able to determine it. So what are the possibilities for yellow again? So yellow being 10, we've gone over the possibilities pretty well. If yellow is 9, it needs to be 9 in a way that contains a 3. So those are 1, 3, 5, or 2, 3, 4. So this would be the 3. Okay, sorry. It would be 1, 3, 5, right? It would have to be 1, 3, 5 because remember, if yellow is 9, it's 3 cells. That's the 3. And so these would have to be either 2, 4 or 1, 3. Well, they can't be 2, 4 because there's a 2 in the box already. So if yellow is 9, then these are a 1, 5 pair for whatever that's worth. And if yellow is 8, then that's a 3, and these are a 1, 4 pair. Is there always a 1 in these cells? There is always a 1 in these cells. Because if there's not a 1 in these cells, then these cells are minimum 4 and 5, plus we'd still need a 3. That way overflows this capacity. So there's always a 1 in these cells. And I've got these dots hanging over here, but I have not done anything with them yet. So I get the most pressure if I put a dot here between these two cells. So I'm going to try that. I think this is probably going to break, but I'm going to try it. I'm going to put a dot there. Actually, I'm going to make it this dot just because that dot stands out a little bit more. I'm going to actually make all of these that dot just so that I can see it a little better when I'm looking at the grid. Now, the reason why that forces a lot of things is it forces blue to come here, which then forces orange to not come out here. It forces blue to not come down. And it forces there to be a cage here. Now, it's actually quite interesting because what is this cage going to be if it's not yellow? If this cage is not yellow, well, it can't grow over here because it has a relationship with blue. So it could only grow there. It would be this 2-cell cage is the only thing it could be. It would need to have a 2. That 2 would go exactly here. I guess one moral of the story is that this cell is always a 2 or a 3, because either this cell is yellow, in which case it is a 2 or a 3, because in the case that this is yellow, remember yellow then has to sum to 10, with this being a 1, 4 and this being a 2, 3. Or if this is not yellow, then this would be part of a 2-cell cage that went here, but the 2 in that 2-cell cage would have to go here. Of course, I would rather this be yellow. Because that would then connect all of these numbers together in an interesting way. Blue, if yellow does come down here, blue can't have size 2 or size 3. So blue is going to have to grow... Oh, blue can never go here. Because whatever this cell is, it's in a cage that has a relationship with blue. So as long as there's an X here, blue can't go there. Oops. I forgot to switch back to normal mode. So blue is coming over here. So that is interesting. So blue either itself has size 2, in which case then... Wait, blue can't have size 2. So this is interesting, actually. Blue can't have size 2, because if blue has size 2, it needs to contain a 2. This cell becomes a 3. It becomes yellow, and now this becomes a 2, and now we're super screwed. So this is blue. I believe that, at the very least. But I think we can do slightly better. I think we can actually argue what we wanted to argue, which is that I think this is always a 2-3 pair. Okay, so again, if this is yellow, it's a 2-3 pair, because we have to get the 1-4 over there. If this is not yellow, then this is a 2. And then now, if this is a 2 that's not yellow, yellow can't be 4 cells anymore. So then this is a 3. So yeah, this is really a 2-3 pair. So this is not a 3 anymore. So blue has to keep growing, because blue can't have 3 cells, because if blue had 3 cells, it would need to contain a 3, and it can't contain a 3. So there's at least a 1-4-5 in here, which is already 10, and then it's got to pick up another cell that's at least I suppose only 2, so it's at least 12, I guess. Blue is at least 12. Oh, we broke the puzzle. Oh, no, we didn't break the puzzle, but we've resolved what happens. So I think this needs to be a black dot. I think that's what I've... So I don't think I've broken the puzzle, as long as I am willing to make this dot black. So I have proven, I think, that this dot actually has to be black. Yeah, I really want to force this to be yellow. How do I force this cell to be yellow is the question, because I think that would be very interesting. That would force... In fact, actually, if this is yellow, it forces both blue and red to have size 20. Oh, blue and red can't both have size 20. Ah, okay, so we actually already know. This isn't yellow. Okay, so here is a very convoluted proof that I think I like. I'm not sure, but I think I actually like this, because it's very similar to what we did with red before. Okay, imagine that this cell is yellow. Yellow now sums to 10. So blue needs to sum to 5 or 20. Well, it doesn't sum to 5. It sums to 20. But in this world, yellow is 20. And so, sorry, in this world, yellow is 10. So red is also 20. But that means red and blue have the same sum, which means whatever dot is between red and, or sorry, whatever dot is between blue and orange would also have to be between red and orange. And that can't happen. So actually, these two cells are not part of the yellow cage. These are their own sum. We'll make that a little itty bitty green cage. Okay, we'll go ahead and fill in the edges. Okay, whoop, doop, 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 and doop. And we actually know some sudoku, because we know this is a 2, and this is a actual number, actually a 2. It's not a 3 in the corner anymore. Sorry, Simon. This is a 3 now, because we needed a 3. And now... Oh, that doesn't actually tell me the sum isn't 10, I don't think. Because I could still do 1-6 here, I think, and that would be okay if I made this 3-1-6, making this sum 10. Extending orange, by the way, is appealing just because orange has only one way to extend, so I kind of want to force the total of orange up. But I can't, as of yet, do that. Oh, here's a way I can force orange up. Let's try this. Bearing in mind, I'm very likely to break the puzzle at any moment, but I'm totally okay with that, because I feel like I'm learning a lot as I go through here, and we're sort of slowly narrowing this down as to what exactly is going on here. So I'm going to put a dot here. And so the reason I'm going to do that is that that forces purple to continue right, because purple, remember, is a minimum of 32, so purple has to continue. That now means the size of green is 2. So green needs to contain a 2. Means there's a 2 down here somewhere, just for the record. But now, in particular, orange is not allowed to have a size of 2 anymore, because that cell can't be 2 and this cell can't be 2. So orange does have to continue. And we already know this cell's not orange. So what's the least I can do to resolve all of this? Because I am a little afraid of where this is going. By the way, I should say, as I'm talking through this, I fully expect that a lot of the logic that I'm using as I'm sort of adding these clues is going to be bypassable at the end of this. And not only am I okay with that, it's probably a good thing, because we've done a few slightly fiddly things through here. I'm really just trying to sort of like get a grid down, and then I can iterate by going through a test solve real quick and seeing if anything upsetting happens. Do I know that purple doesn't go down here? I drew this edge, but no, I do know that purple doesn't go down here because purple is in a relationship. By using this X, I know that purple doesn't go down. So actually, I can resolve everything. I don't know if it'll work, but let's try it. If I put a dot of some shape here, I don't know what kind. Now purple is 5 cells. And the thing about being 5 cells is you can't sum to 40 and you can't sum to 36. Because the maximum you can get in 5 cells is 98765, which is in fact 35. So, in fact, this would force. So, let's see if this works. So, it either will or it won't, and I suspect it will fail quite quickly. I remembered a thing I need to not lose track of, which is that this purple cage definitely contains a 5 because it is of size 5. Now, I have both of these dots hanging off of my cage that sums to 32. And that's definitely notable. I've not actually thought much about what these cages are going to be. If I make these white dots, then their totals are going to be astronomically huge. If I make them black dots, they could be as small as 16, but that's still a minimum of 3 cells in this puzzle. Because remember, a 2-cell cage would have to have a 2, so it couldn't add to 16 unless you put a 14 in it. And even though there's 14s marked in those cells, you can't do that. Yeah, so I kind of want to connect this, whatever this cage is that's connected to the purple. I kind of want to try and get that into the conversation about how all of these numbers are related, so that I can sort of resolve this. Okay. So the reason why this 5 is very relevant is that if this is to 5, making 7, then the 5 has to go exactly there. Actually, can I make 32 and 5 without... what are my options for 32 and 5, actually? Let's think about this. So 32 and 5 is... so let's see. So 32 and 5 with a 5. So 32 and 5 with a 5 means that I am making 27 in 4 without a 5. So that's 3 degrees of freedom. Yeah, this is 3 degrees of freedom on... So the way I think about it is 6, 7, 8, 9 is the maximum. Actually, I think I probably want to do it for 35. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is the maximum, but the 5 is a fixed point. Yeah, I was curious if there's anything I always needed that was going to be super useful. Like, do I need both a 5 and a 7? I always need the 5, but do I need the 7? And I think the answer is no, I don't need the 7. I could replace the 7 with a 4, and that would be fine. That would get me there. So I think there's probably some restrictions, but I don't want to go too far into killer cage math. But if it worked out that it was going to be something where I could think about this for a little bit and get a cool killer cage deduction, then I would be happy. But I don't want to make people like write out a bajillion possibilities. So if I make this a white dot and this a black dot, then this cage has to be huge because it's a 31 or a 33. I know it can't take this cell, so it's going to have to come down. This cage here is now then going to be a 16 because it can't be a 64. And it could never touch this cage. That looks a little restricted, but not not so restricted that I immediately know what to do with it, for example. A dot here actually does some stuff. So let's try that. Okay, so dot here. Okay. The reason why I say that does some stuff is there's this cage I haven't filled in here, which I know because of the imaginary X here, I know has to go down. But now I've forced it over, if I do that. But now there's also this cage down here, which can be another green cage, I suppose, that's going to have to do. And note, because of the 2's pencil marked there, it's actually got to extend out at least that far. And so I've got sort of all of these edges like that. Oh, that's already broken because I didn't put a dot here. It'd have to be the same dot as that dot. And then that would probably so I'm okay with putting a second dot. I've so far avoided putting a second dot. I'm not averse to it. If I do put a second dot here, though, it's going to really scream that this is where you're supposed to start the break-in of the puzzle, and I don't want to do that because I don't want to mislead someone. So I think this is not quite going to do what I wanted out of my life, unfortunately, which is sad because it did so many things right away. Now, it is true. This part is true. The yellow does have to go down like that. That is true, and the yellow does have to extend in some direction because it can't have size 2 for myriad reasons. The 2 in the box, the fact that it's in some sort of dot relationship with a 32, so lots of reasons, really. Now, I could resolve all of this with a 5 anywhere over here. Like a given 5 over here would remove 5 from this, would force 5 into one of these, would do that over there. So I think I'm going to try that, actually. I think I'm going to try a given 5, and I'm going to put it here, but I'm going to keep in mind I could move it around this row. I'm going to try to anyway. Let's see. So the reason for that is that now removes those 5, so there is definitely a 5 here. So this is not 2, 5, 7. It is 2, 7. And that 2, 7 is resolved by this 2 and has been for forever, apparently. I didn't realize that, but it's true. So that's a 7, that's a 2. Now I still need to make 13, and I can't make it as 6, 7. I can't make it as 4, 9, so I have to make it as 5, 8. So this is a 3, 5, 8 now. So that's not a 5. And so the remaining digits that are left in this box, we need a 6 and a 9. So we've got a 6, 9 pair left over. Now, actually, that's resolved by the negative constraint, because if this were a 6, the total of these two would be an 8, and then 8 and 16 would need a black dot. So this is not a 6; it is a 9. That's a 6. So this totals to 11. So this totals to 22 in blue. This may, by the way, be very broken already. I do not know. Okay, so now, though, I'm now very concerned about the total of this cage and whether it's actually possible. So I need to get to 32, and I'm already using a 5 and a 6. So that means I need to get to 21 without 5 or 6 in 3. Let's see. Let's make sure that's possible. So I'm just going to write center digits. Okay, so we've got a 5 and a 6 for free. And so now we need a 21. The most I could do is 7, 8, 9. Of course, that is too big. So I need to reduce that by 3. So I could do 4, 8, 9. That would do it. Is there any other way? Is 4, 8, 9 the only way? Yeah, actually it is. Because I have to do the 5 and the 6. And so let's say I want to make a smaller total than using all of these. Well, what's the only way I could do that? Well, I can reduce the smallest number here by as little as possible. But the least I can reduce the 7 by is to reduce it to 4, and now we're at the right total. So now this is 21 plus 11 is 32, which is what it's supposed to be. So indeed, this is a 5, 6, 4, 8, 9 cage. So we've got the 6 already. We need a 5. Oops, sorry. These are, I'm going to get rid of this 32 now because it has become a Sudoku center mark. So 5, 4, 8, 9. These aren't 5 because of the given 5 that we put over there. I'm going to note I can't put a 6 in here for the same reason I couldn't put a 6 over here. It would make the total of this 8, which would black dot this 16 total. So the 6 is actually in this box. The 6 is actually over here. So the 6 in this box is down here. I'm just going to keep track of that for my my own benefit. Okay, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to record. The total of this is 22. That is the total of blue. So now, if I make this a black dot, I force orange to be either an 11 or a 44. Now, the interesting thing about making it an 11 is that you can't actually make 11 in a 4-cell cage in this puzzle, which is a deduction you've probably seen in X-sums puzzles or something before. Because if I put a 4 in the cage, I can't do the only 4-cell way of making 11, which is 1, 2, 3, 5, which I probably should have thought of earlier because I think I was thinking about 4-cell 11s earlier. Maybe I realized not. I don't remember. But so if I make this a black dot, there's only 2 possibilities for this cage. Which are that it is an 8-cell 44 cage. That is one possibility. Or the other is that it is a 3-cell 11 cage with a 3 exactly here. Which would mean these two would have to sum to 8 without using a 2 or a 3. So they'd have to be a 1, 7 exactly. Yeah, so actually the 3-cell 11 version's actually quite restricted. Because it would need to have its 3. It could only have its 3 there, and then these would have to be 1, 7 in order to complete the sum the way it's supposed to work. Let's see. I know these are... Okay, so let's write in the candidates for the rest of this box, because I think that is worth doing. So we've got... Well, sorry, we need a 1, 2, 3. We've got a 4 and a 5. We need a 6 and a 7, and then we've got an 8 and a 9. But none of these are 2. These aren't 6 because of the aforementioned note. It's a little messy. Are there any other things that we can rule out of this? Let's see, if this was an 11 cage, what would this be? This would have to be 10 or 12, and it can be neither, right? I realize I'm sort of solving my own fake puzzle where I'm disambiguating the ambiguous dots. But in fact, actually, this can't be an 11 cage. Actually, this can't be an 11 cage or a 22 cage with this dot here. This dot just doesn't work. Because this cage is now already forced to be at least 11, and this cage here is at most 9. So what am I going to do about that? Okay, well, I'm going to leave this here, and I'm going to try and remember tomorrow that the first thing I want to think about is, do I want to rewind this and try and fix what was going on here because of the fact that this is now my template of the puzzle is now broken? Or do I just want to say, close enough, and then just remove this dot or something like that? we'll figure that out. But I'm going to stop recording here for today, and I'll pick up tomorrow right where I left off so you can see all of my thinking about this puzzle. But I'll see you then. Alrighty, welcome back, everyone. We were in the middle of working on this puzzle yesterday when I both ran out of time and also the grid as it currently sits is broken, I recall. And the reason for that is that this dot will not work no matter what kind of dot it is. So, just a reminder for myself as well, this dot was here in order to cause the green cage to end, which had a lot of impacts up there. But it doesn't work in the end because of the way all these numbers got forced to sort of shuffle out. This ended up being a 22 cage. So this is at least an 11 cage. But this is at most an 8 cage, and there's no way I can connect an 11 cage to an at most 8 cage. So I need to change something. I'm debating exactly how it is that I'm going to go about doing that. I think what I'm going to do first is remind myself sort of how I got this far. And I'm going to put in some clues over in this grid, and I'm going to do it in CTC and just follow through the logic. So basically, and this is something I really do a lot when I'm setting a puzzle, and something I recommend you do when you're setting your puzzles, is go over the logic again from the beginning just to see how it feels. Because I have not thought about this in a day, so let's look at it. So I'm going to copy as many of the dots over here as I think I can. I'm not obviously going to copy the dot that doesn't work. And I'm going to put a U here for unknown. Okay, and then I'm going to open this in CTC. And so I want to go through my logic again. Probably in the video, you're not going to see all of this because you watched me do all of this, but I'm going, but so in the video, you're about to see probably a giant, like, skip ahead by a bunch. But what I'm doing is I'm reminding myself what each of these clues does that I probably want to keep, and then see what I actually want to sort of keep as my starting setup, because I'm going to lose some of these dots, obviously, because if I kept them all, then the puzzle would be broken. But I want to just see where this gets me. Okay, so the breaking here is where I think this is exactly the point I was up here. I don't think I'd added these clues yet, but I think this is where I added a clue here in order to force the shape of purple. Am I maybe more attached to that clue than I am to these clues? Because that would actually let us do quite a bit. I think I might actually... Maybe I actually like the clue that I broke in terms of what it does geometrically better than I like this bit over here. I just want to be careful I don't recreate exactly the same grid, but I'm going to try this again real quick. I'm going to try it with, okay, so instead of keeping these, I'm going to get rid of these. Say, I don't know what I'm going to do over here yet. I'm just going to admit that. And instead, I'm going to go ahead and put in my dot that I put there. So that I'm going to write as a U for an unknown unknown dot type. Open this in CTC, and let's do this again. So Now yellow can't come here. Okay, so this clue that we broke actually was huge, because what it does is it says now yellow can't come here because yellow and purple have a black dot relationship. So the absence of a dot there means that yellow can't turn this way. So yellow has to turn this way. And yes, I really know yellow can't go here. So purple can't go this way either. So purple has to go down. But now this is a region, and this is a region. And we have to carefully continue green at least in order for this to work. Okay, so I think this is really the place I want to start from. So maybe I actually pull up a new Penpa page and enter this in Penpa. And then start working from here. I want to keep this just in case, just to look back on. So yeah, we're going to pull up a new Penpa page. So I think I want to resume setting from this point and then try and make different choices than I made last time, because last time I made choices that eventually ended up dooming us all. So let's copy this. So I've got... Alrighty, so here we are. I think we're at the same point we were here. I am going to remind just myself that we do have to worry about the negative constraint a lot. So I absolutely cannot have it turn out, for example, that green and purple end up having a consecutive number or a number with ratio of 2 to 1, or the entire logic of the puzzle up to this point will get ruined. So I part of that is just going to be luck, but that's also part of why I want to nail down the totals up here as quickly as I can, which is what I was trying to do yesterday when I broke the puzzle. So I'm trying to remember when I was doing this originally, what clues it was that I added over here to sort of shore up exactly what it was that was going to happen, and what I could do differently. So as long, let's see, I want to continue my thing because I realize there's actually a little bit more at least I can do. As long as I don't put a dot here, then because of this, I already can't have orange continue down. So orange is going to have to continue over. So there's at least that. So I get at least one more step that I had not yet marked in here. Okay, so to me, maybe the obvious thing to do is to put a dot here, because that's going to stop yellow from growing. It's going to force yellow to be size 3. It's going to do all kinds of neat things. The reason why I don't want to do that is because that's exactly what I did last time, and it did not end well, if I am completely honest. Okay, so a little bit messy, but what I'm thinking of is this combination and a given 3 over here somewhere in the first row. Slightly heavy-handed, totally granted, but it forces a bunch of things. And so I want to try this and see exactly what this does. So the 3 is here so that red has to keep going. The dot is here so that red can't keep going this way. So this is going to force red to go down, which is going to create an edge here. Now, red and yellow are in a black dot relationship, so neither red nor yellow can take this cell. So that in particular finishes yellow. it means that yellow has a 3 in it. There is some cage starting here. And now red can't take this cell, nor can pink. I should have realized that right away. Neither red nor pink can take this cell because there would need to be a dot. And if I don't put a dot, then we actually finish red. Pink is going to continue over. However far pink wants to go, I don't know yet. So let's see if this works out. Okay. So my first question is, does red have enough cells to be the bigger of red, yellow, and purple? Because remember, if red is the big one, red is 4 times purple. So purple is min 8, 1, 3, 4. So this would need to be 32 if this is the absolute minimum it could be if red is the big one. And so that can't happen. Red can't be the big one because I can't get to 32 with a 4 in 4. In fact, I can't even get to 32 in 4 without that. Okay. So then red must be the small one. And so in this universe, red is the smallest. So yellow, which is only 3 cells, is actually supposed to be 2 times the red. And then purple is supposed to be 4 times red. Okay. Now the question is this already broken? The maximum that yellow can be is actually 20. And the minimum that red can be is actually 10. So actually, the only way this works, and I don't know if this is actually going to work or not, but the only way that this could possibly work is if this is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 3, 8, 9. So let's try that, just the Sudoku on that, and see if that is going to kill us. So I can't have a 3 in any of these cells, so I have to, of course, put a 3 here. I can't have a 2 in either of those cells, so I, of course, have to put a 2 here. I now have to put this 2 here. This is now supposed to total to 9 or 11. Well, it can't total to 11 because that would require a 9, and the 9 in the box is gone. So this has to total to 9 instead, so that's a 7. And now, okay, this is not a 3, I should note. Now I need purple to total to 40. Now, I actually think this looks plausible, I think. I think this might not be broken. Maybe. Yeah. Okay, so this would be a 5, 6 pair. All right, this totals to 40. This is 9. This is 20. This is 10. So a few things have happened. One thing that's happened is that pink can't have size 2 anymore. Pink sees a 2 in all of its cells. Going to make this awfully difficult for this to be a consecutive dot. It might just work. Oh no, pink can't have size 3 either. Because if pink wants to have size 3, pink would need to contain a 3, and nowhere that pink could take actually will let pink contain a 3. So pink actually takes at least 2 more cells wherever it goes, and they can't be those 2. So pink at least takes 1 cell in this row. Can at least go that far. Purple now has to continue. That's one thing that happens out of all of this, because purple now needs to sum to 40. So purple is going to be either 7 or 8 cells. I don't know which yet. Yeah, this just can't be a black dot. Or sorry, this just can't be a white dot. This has to be a black dot. If it's any kind of dot at all, it has to be a black dot. You'll notice in a weird way, as I'm setting this, I'm really sort of solving my own ambiguity puzzle with the various dots, where sort of like in setting a puzzle, you're solving a harder puzzle. That is one of the things you learn as you figure these things out. So now the upshot of this is pink needs to sum to 20. So pink is a 20 cage. I don't know exactly what it looks like, but pink needs to be a 20 cage. So it has at most most 5 cells. Thinking about putting a dot here. So last time I put a dot here just to immediately cut off green. I don't think I need to cut off green immediately now. I think I probably want green to actually continue one more. Maybe not. We'll see. But I'm curious what logically it does if I put a dot there. So I think actually I can make something kind of interesting happen if I put dots here and here. Now, the interesting thing that happens might be that the puzzle is broken. But the reason why I think this is interesting is that purple always takes either this side or this side of this, because purple needs to be at least 7 cells in size. And so because purple has to be at least 7 cells in size, it's going to turn either here or here because it's blocked here, and it's not anywhere near 7 cells yet there. And what that does is it, in a funny way, tells us that green can't take this cell. Because if green took this cell, we would now be saying purple took this cell, and that would say green and purple have a dot relationship, and green and purple definitely cannot have a dot relationship because they have multiple borders where there's no dot. So this is a funny way of saying that actually green ends, and there is a 2 in here somewhere. So as it currently sits, purple now has size 7. So purple is either 7 cells missing a 1 and a 4, or missing a 2 and a 3, or it is 8 cells missing a 5. Those are the only options. I'm looking at these dots now, and I'm noticing that the problem with these dots is that they are with a 40 cage. And being with a 40 cage is quite restrictive. So they have to be either 39, 41, or 20 cages. Those are the only options. I'm not allowed to have an 80 cage. I am noting, by the way, that I really like making purple 8 cells if I can swing making purple 8 cells, because if I can swing making purple 8 cells, it resolves this cell, because an 8 cell 40 cage would not have a 5 in it. So this would automatically become a 6. And I think that's a pretty slick deduction. So I kind of want to figure out a way to force purple to continue. It's this whole puzzle style. I'm noticing my tools make it much easier to make cages stop than to make cages continue. This feels so sloppy to me. I'm not sure I like this. I think I want to try a different iteration of this. It feels very forced. It's going to require a lot of mental, or it's going to require a lot of space devoted to these cages. And I would kind of like some more different totals. I don't necessarily want to have all 10 and 20 and 40 cages all floating around the grid. And I already have 20 cages, so let's see. So yeah, so this forced basically all of that. So I think I want to get rid of those 2 dots as well. Okay, so here's another place where if I put a dot here, yeah, maybe I don't quite like this arrangement. Maybe I want to back up further. To back before I put in that dot and think again about what exactly it is I'm doing with my life. Okay, so maybe I want to fill in, I think I might actually have missed something that I could do before. Because I think I can fill in these digits. Well, I know I can fill in these digits. They are 5, 6, 8, 9. And so what I can actually notice is pink already can't take this cell. Because if pink takes this cell, the three of them sum to a minimum of 5, 6, 8, which is 19, and they still don't contain their size. So they would then need to take another cell, which would have at least a 4 in it. So actually, even before I put in this dot, actually, that was already forced by thinking about the totals. So actually, this is already forced. Okay, so now let's just experiment. Let's just try putting a dot here. Which I do because I realize that it forces a green to come out over here. And it forces pink to not take this cell. Because, again, if pink took this cell, it would be establishing a relationship with pink and green that is not borne out in there. So pink now takes this cell like it did before. Some other color takes this cell. Oh, and purple can't continue that way because green does, so purple now has to go down. Hems in pink on another side. Green has to continue because green can't have size 2 because it doesn't have a 2 yet. So green goes at least that far. Okay, can purple possibly... Oh yeah, green, I don't know much about the total of green. So actually, purple could be quite small if I allow green to have an even total and put a black dot there. That would be an acceptable thing to do. But I really don't currently have any information about what's going on with green up here in this corner. Okay. So I had this idea some time ago about using pink and orange and playing those against each other. And I think I now want to contemplate doing that. So I think I want to try seeing what happens if I put a dot here. It's a shame. I liked the version where this turned out to be a 3 cage much better, except for the fact that it broke. But this being a 3 cage resolved some of the stuff that was in here, which was nice. I can go back before I did all this with the orange cage and redo this stuff, and then maybe I would get the 3 cage and not break that stuff. Admittedly, I am realizing that this was further along ago than I would have preferred, but what are you going to do? Okay, that's about back here. I feel like I noticed something up here that I now have forgotten about. But the thing I wanted to play with was I wanted to play with... Oh no, because I don't know that yet. I don't know that green extends now. That's the problem. I used the orange stuff to get that green extended down. Okay, I will point out I do know that pink doesn't go anywhere. In this box, at least. I know that much. I know that there's a 2 down here. Okay, so maybe try something completely different. Try that. So that forces an edge there, forces an edge here, forces a cage here. Purple has to go down. Neither yellow nor purple can go to this cell because yellow and purple now have a relationship. Although now yellow is 20. And I'd been trying to avoid having more cages that have a total of 20 because I already have 20 cages. And that seems a little excessive already. So yeah, I don't quite like that. Okay, we could be very blunt. Just put a dot there. And now there's a cage starting here. Purple has to continue down. The deduction I'm trying to recover is that purple sort of had to take this turn to avoid taking the whole column. So if I want that whole deduction and I want to do it this way, I think I need to put a dot here as well, just to force yellow down one further, which forces purple down one further. But purple can't take this cell, or its total will it will be impossible to make it sum to 40, because it needs to either be missing two digits that sum to 5, and it's missing 2 and 7, or it needs to be missing 5, but it already has a 5. So purple needs to turn there. And that forces yellow to turn there. Although now we have this cell being a problem, which sort of forces an 18 bajillionth dot there. Okay, I don't quite like that. I like it in spirit. Okay, how do we make it so yellow can't come here without putting just a barricade there? Or that yellow is forced to take this cell. Not sure. Okay, notably, that does recover this 2. I'm going to put a shape here. Whatever's on this side is forced to run out like that. Can't run down, so has to keep running out. Now, if this isn't yellow, whatever this is, let's make it blue. If blue isn't yellow, then blue can't run that way, so blue runs down, yellow runs down, at least to there, and then purple breaks. But that is a really long look ahead. I don't want to do that. It gets at the deduction I want, but I want to make the deduction I want clearer than that. Let's see. Let's go back before that. Maybe I can do this a better way. So should I go back to where I added this dot? That seems like a lot, but let's try it. So, recap. The last observation that was relevant at this point in the grid was that this 5, 6, 8, 9 quad that was left up here meant that pink actually, because its total is going to be 20, could not actually ever take this cell. And so then the thing we added was we added a dot there to sort of force some more stuff going forward from there. So that created this region. Then we said, well, pink can't go here because pink has a relationship with this region. And then we went on from there and got that L shape. But then we couldn't really, no matter how hard we tried, we could not constrain it into something that we could then use. So what if the dot is here instead? Can I take advantage of the edge of the grid to say, okay, so now I know there is a region that goes here and here. There's a region that goes here. This region has to continue down because it can't go over. This region has to continue over. Annoyingly, the 3 is actually in the shape, so I can't say, oh, so it's forced to go down here, which is what I would like to be able to say, except that I can't. I'm actually maybe more interested in trying what happens if I put a dot here now. so that I actually force this into this box. So we've got a blue region here now that is getting coerced over to here. So now this is pink. So this is neither pink nor blue. This we already said can't be pink. We still have that pink can't contain a 2 or a 3 in any of these cells. So these cells total to a minimum of 16 already. If I didn't use a 1 in them, it would be a disaster. Oh, I think now we're in a position where we actually know that pink ends. Because the reason why we couldn't control pink before was that pink had the ability to grab a 2 outside the box. But here, actually, there is nowhere that pink can grab a 2. So pink actually is, again, minimum 1, 4, 5, 6. But if I add a cell, it's minimum 1, 4, 5, 6, 7. And 4, 5, 6, 7, 1 is already too big. 4, 5 is 9, and 6 is 15, and 7 is 22, and 1 is 23. Yep. Okay. So yes, this really does end its life there, which means that we do get a lot of the Sudoku stuff that we had before. Namely, this becomes a 1-4 pair. These need to sum to 15, which they can only do as 6 and 9. So these are not 6 or 9. They are 5 or 8. That's interesting. So that gets me my 20. So these digits are sort of weirdly 1. We've got a 2, 3, 4. We need a 5. We've got a 6, 7, 8, and then we've got the 9. But this one isn't 1 or 4, actually, because it sees the 1-4 pair. Okay, so now can I use this whole razzmatazz to make any interesting geometry? Because I've got this crook here that is doing something. So I can put a circle here. And now this is some region. Let's make that yellow. Let's make this green up top. Green actually needs to take all of these because it can't take anything else and it can't be of size 2. So that actually forces green to take exactly that shape. It forces yellow to come down. I don't know what colored dot I want this to be. It could be either. If it's a black dot, this could actually be just a 2, 7, which would be a perfectly reasonable pair of numbers to pick. Let's see. I actually want to write in candidates for these cells because there aren't that many, actually, because it's not 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not 5. It could be 6 or 7. It can't be 8, and it could be 9. So actually, these cells are quite restricted in terms of what they can be. Blue, remember, we have this sort of border here that is not super clearly defined, but blue can't get over here. Nor can blue get up to here. So blue is blue is destined to grow to one of these two cells, but we don't know which yet. Okay, so what kind of dot do I want here with this 18? I think, actually, if I put another dot here, I think I can actually force this. Put another dot right there. Now yellow actually can't get out of this box anymore, because remember, yellow can't be blue. So now yellow is restricted in its size. It can be at most 4. So I think if I make this a black dot, then actually now the sum of this has to be either 9 or 36, and you can't get to 36 in 4. So the sum has to be 9, which I think forces that yellow is this this box that looks like this, where it's going to have size 2 and be 7 and 2, I think. Because again, it's got to be either half of 18 or double. I feel like this is probably a pretty good place to wrap up for today and think about this more tomorrow. I do feel like we're making progress. I feel like this is going to be a really cool puzzle when it's done. I feel like the most painful part for me is yet to come because I think that this is going to break several more times before it resolves. But I think we're getting a hang of what we can do with this rule set and what kinds of deductions we can make. Which is usually a lot of what I'm doing. As you can see, a lot of this is just me playing with it and seeing, hey, what can I do? Can I make this work? Can I make this work? And sort of trying to get my head around all of the consequences of everything. But I'm really happy with what the grid of this is, I think, going to look like at the end. Because there's going to be a small smattering of white and black dots that's then going to force this whole giant labyrinth of cages. And I think that's going to lead to something that people are really going to like and something that, well, I guess I'm really going to like. But you don't have to go anywhere, but I'm going to go somewhere and do something. And then I'll be back tomorrow and we'll look at this some more. So ta-ta for now. All right, everyone. Time for day 3. Just like day 2, I'm going to start with a blank version of the grid with all the clues that I currently have in it, and I'm going to solve through it from scratch just to sort of see how everything flows, just to show you the grid again as it sort of was, I mean, in your past 30 seconds ago. I think I'm pretty happy with the evolution on the left half of the grid. I'm very happy with the box 1 stuff. Sort of extends over to here. My place where I think I might make some changes is in this sort of giant morass of cages. There's a whole lot of cages here that have to have particular relationships between them. And I worry that those relationships might have accidentally become impossible, or I might just not like the geometry here. I'm going to try and be more willing. This is always a struggle for me, but I'm going to try and be more willing to use given digits or whatnot to steer things. So I might end up moving some of these dots around. We'll see. So the biggest happening since you last saw this puzzle is that I decided on a name for the puzzle. Namely, I decided to call it MIA because the cages in the puzzle are missing in action. So you'll see now I have written over here, I've called it now MIA. The other reason, by the way, that I keep sort of like resetting to a blank grid and looking at it is I want to look at the aesthetics of the blank grid and make sure that I like it. Like I think these puzzles are most satisfying when there's a fairly sparse looking grid. I just realized I forgot to put a given 3 here in the corner, which was present in the puzzle. I might actually try and see if I can solve the puzzle without this given 3, because there's now a bunch of extra clues up here. It's possible that one of them implies the 3, so maybe this 3 is now actually unnecessary. Yeah, I think I'm going to look at it without the 3, but I'm going to be very willing to throw back in the 3 if need be. But the aesthetics of this are important, so I want to keep making sure as I keep looking at this grid that aesthetically it keeps looking reasonably sparse and doesn't start looking super crowded or whatever. All right, so as a first step, we can always draw in borders on every dot when we're solving this. So part of it is I want to make sure this doesn't sort of like already make obvious what the final solution of the grid is going to end up looking like. But we can do that. So this will be yellow. This will be blue. Random note, by the way, if you don't have a wireless keypad, I really recommend, if you do like hardly any amount of Sudoku at all, almost any amount of Sudoku that you do makes it worth having a wireless keypad, because they, a wireless number pad, I should say, because they really do make this far more pleasant. I don't know if everyone does this, but certainly I do. Okay. Blue. I wonder if I used that purple couldn't come here when I was setting this, because this constellation of dots kind of looks like I want to use that purple can't come here. But obviously purple can very much come here, I now realize, because of this. Yeah, I kind of suspect something weird happened over here, actually, when I was setting this. Like, maybe I used that there wasn't a dot here, and then later put a dot there after I had sort of sealed off this cage. So it looks to me like I could just barely make this work as a 5-cell cage. I'm tempted to just rewind and just start setting again from sort of like the clues up here that I've used, but I want to... So in particular, if I delete this clue, I can get back to knowing that this cage has size 4, which is interesting, I think. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, we're going to bring up a new Penpal link. I'm curious to try putting the given 3 here and see if it does anything different, because it puts pressure on the size of the cages down here better than a 3 over here does. So I'm going to try, and I'm prepared for this to horribly break the puzzle in a way I don't anticipate. I'm going to try moving the given 3 here. And actually, I have not yet used the color of this dot, and I've not yet used the color of that dot. There's a dot there. I had a dot here, but I don't think I've used it yet. Oh, I missed a black dot. I missed the black dot here. Okay, and I think we're back to a point in life where we have all the clues that we currently want to keep, and then I might look back and I might steal some of the clue ideas that I had before because, well, I had them, so I can. So let's do our real quick sort of catch up. I'm going to solve it again from scratch just because I moved the 3 and I don't want to accidentally do anything relying on that, but I suspect it's going to work out basically the same. Some cage here. And so this cage here, and so here's where I'm going to like use the fact that there's not a dot here. So that's where I think I used that there wasn't a dot here in my solve when I was setting it before. And then after using that there wasn't a dot there, I then put a dot there. I think. I'm not sure. Oops. Ah! Chaos. Okay. So pink can't go this way. Purple can't go this way. Purple can't take that cell. This cell is, let's say, green. Green needs to have size at least 3, so green's always going to take this cell. If this was purple, green couldn't finish. That's the point. Because if this was purple, it would force green to go either there where it couldn't go or there where it couldn't go, because it would put green and purple in a relationship when green and purple have decided to just stay friends. I guess the easy way to see that I should have seen is whatever this cell is, I don't even care if it's purple or not, it forces green to take this cell, which then tells you what happens. And so green now is exactly this triomino. This is some other thing. Yellow is definitely not pink. because pink and purple are in a relationship and yellow and purple are not. Yellow, unfortunately, could take... I'm noticing if I make this a white dot, it's impossible that yellow has size 2. And then it also is impossible that yellow has size 3. So then yellow has to have size 4 or 5 as soon as that happens. By the way, I know I should mark that there is a 4 in one of these corners. Okay, so I believe actually this has to be a 1-4 pair because I can't have a 2 or a 3. And so if I did not have a 1, I would be at least 4, 5 here, and this would be at least 4, 5, 6, 8. 4, 5, 6, 8 is way too many. Even 4, 5, 6, 7 if you want to be super generous. Pretending that you could put a 7 in here is already too big. So once there's not a 2 or a 3 in a 20 cage, there has to be a 1 because otherwise, what are you doing with your life? So this is a 1, 4. I wonder if that was what I missed when I was doing this over here. It's possible there was some killer arithmetic that I just did not pay attention to when I was doing this in my solve earlier and I got stuck, but whatever, we'll call that good. So these need to total to 15 as the upshot, and the only way they do that is as 6 and 9. So they're 6 and 9. These aren't 6 and 9. They're 5 and 8. Okay, so what is the total of this? The total of this is 16. Which I mean is prime real estate for a black dot, but I think a white dot might work equally well. Okay, I now want to go back here for a second and just check and see. Okay, should it have been obvious to me that this was going to be a 1-4 pair? Or was it possible that this is a 1-4 and a 2, making that sum to 7? And then these would need to sum to 13? No, that was fine. It was possible. This could be 8, 5, 1, 4, 2 was possible previously. And by the way, if you are ever in a position where you think that you had a deduction that made something work, but you can't recover it, if you as the setter can't recover it, probably you should not use it as part of your puzzle. Okay, so if I make this a white dot, let's try this now. I'm going to make this a white dot. That's enough to tell me that yellow has to have size at least big. It can't have size 2, and it can't have size 3 because there's nowhere it can get away from the 3. So yellow has to have size at least 4 now, while totaling to 15 or 16. Sorry, 15 or 17. So yellow's probably going to have a hard time even having a size that's as big as 5. I'm noticing these digits are 6, 7, 8, 9 for sure. So pink goes to one of these two cells. Now, again, if I make this a white dot, pink has to actually have a total that's pretty big. That is kind of interesting. So I think I do want to make this a white dot. Otherwise, pink only has total at most 10, and it's still possible that pink is, say, like an 8 here and a 2 here. I think I want this to be a white dot. Now pink needs to have size at least 4, but pink definitely needs to leave this box because otherwise this box's total would not work. Oh, also pink can't ever take this cell. Oh yes, pink can take neither this cell nor this cell because those cells both touch 20s. So pink can take this cell, but then it's got to come down to this row. Would probably be interesting to find some arrangement to force exactly what pink does. I still really want to resolve this 5-6 pair by forcing orange to end up having size 8, because then it wouldn't contain a 5, and that would resolve this, but I may not be able to make that work, but we'll see. If I could, it would be cool. Okay, so if I were to put a dot here, that might force a lot, actually. Okay, so that first of all puts that there like that. It creates a new region over here. Let's make it blue. We haven't done blue in a while, so blue is going to have to come down at least that far, which then says yellow can't escape this direction. Yellow can't have size 2, so yellow has to escape over this way. Yellow can't have size 3 either, so yellow is forced to escape down there like that. By the way, yellow is 15 or 17. So blue can't be in a black dot. Oh, I guess blue could be in a black dot relationship. Again, if it was, blue needs to be huge. I'm going to use a really weird piece of a logic that is totally irrelevant and note that whether this is a white dot or a black dot, blue is big enough it can't be done in 2 cells. And draw in this edge and that edge. I guess that was free regardless, but now blue can't go up there, and blue has to come down one more. Okay, so that did a lot of damage. Yellow certainly can't grow more than this. Or sorry, yellow can't get more than one more cell. Could yellow even get one more cell? So could yellow have size 5 and sum to, again, 15, which would not be possible because 15 would require it be exactly 1 through 5, which would not be possible. Or 17. So 17 is a little bit more plausible. But in order to be 17 with a 5, you need to take the minimum 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 15. But you need to keep the 5. So the only way you can get to 17 with a 5 is as 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. So if yellow wants a 5th cell, that needs to be a 6. And this collection of digits needs to be 1, 2, 3, 5. Let's see, and the 3 would need to go in one of these cells. So an interesting thing is, if this digit becomes a 4, it actually forces yellow to get another cell and be this ridiculous 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 possibility, which is intrinsically interesting to me because it would force so much into the grid. It would probably break, but it might not. Blue, I am noticing, is actually quite constrained as to where it can go if I put a dot here. But blue could have size 3. And sum to, let's see, this is going to be 2 away from 16. If I put a dot here, there's no way there's no way this dot is black. It would have to be white. Okay, I think I want to try putting a given 1 here and see if it breaks. If that's a 1, that's a 4, and that's a 1. And now yellow can't have size 4 because there's nowhere for it to have a 4. So it actually has to be 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. So that would be the 6. So that would be the 5, and that would be the 6. These would all be from 1, 2, 3, 5, except those aren't 1. And actually, know where these go could be 1, so that would be the 1. Because the yellow needs to take one more cell, and it's either that one or that one. That one can't be 3 for the record. Oh, nor can this one be 5, actually, because there's a 5-8 pair in the box, so that's a 5. Sorry, when I said this isn't 5 and then I made it a 5, that was wrong. This is not 5, so it is 2. This isn't 6 or 8. This is 7 or 9, and that's 7 or 9. So this isn't a 2. And so we either need to put a 3-5 pair here or a 3-5 pair here. I'm not sure on which yet. Okay, I know there's a 1 over here sudokulogically. I could put a dot here, actually, with the whatever cage this is. What cage is this? This is a 17 cage. I could put a dot here with a 17 cage. Okay. Now... Oh, this just immediately breaks. I mean, not quite immediately, but it pretty quickly breaks. Because now pink is going to be forced out of here because pink is too big not to. But now, remember, this green is forcing yellow down. So green's going to have to go this way, and that's going to really quickly close off the ability of pink to actually finish. So that's not going to work. See, if I make this a black dot, blue has to be huge. If yellow came down here, that would force blue to go down at least to here. I guess that's not that restrictive, all things considered. Yeah, the dot here is maybe the most natural. So let's try that. It's going to have to be a white dot. Oh, sorry. It's not that needs to be a white dot. Sorry, that could be any color of dot. It's this that needs to be a white dot. Okay, and I think this does the thing I want. So now, blue either has size 3. So remember, this is 17. So blue is summing now to 16 or 18. So blue either has size 3, in which case there's a 3 here, and yellow needs to come over here. Or blue has size at least 4, in which case blue comes here, in which case yellow goes here. So actually this, through a combination of the two rules, forces yellow to finish over here, like that. Which is then going to force pink to come over here and down. And I know that pink and red are different because pink has a relationship with the sum 20 and red does not have a relationship with the sum 20. I will try to remember. So there's really a wall there. This is a 3 or a 5. The more I play with this, the more I both really like this constraint, but also, or this combination of constraints, but also the harder this puzzle gets, is my general sense of where this is going. By the way, I think this puzzle is becoming more difficult as it goes along. Like every time it breaks, the next iteration is harder. Okay, so this is 16 or 18. If it had a 3 in it, it would need the other digits to sum to either 15, which they could be as 7, 8, or 9, 6. I think both would work. Or if it's summed to 18 and or if it's summed to 16 and had a 3, I'd need them to 13, in which case, yeah, I think this can work any number of ways, actually, as far as I am able to tell. Pink, I know, does not take either of these. And now, notably, pink can't have size 3, actually. That's really cool, because if pink had size 3, where would you put the 3? You can't. So pink actually has to come down one further, at the very least. And pink is 19 or 21. 19 or 21 can touch a 17 cage, no problem. It might be the case that blue and pink aren't allowed to touch, because it could be that pink is 19 and blue is 18. That's possible, in which case blue and pink could not touch. But we really don't know enough to resolve that just yet. I kind of want this dot to be black, just because I know the blue cage sums to a nice juicy total that you could double or halve, and it would work either way. And then you would have to figure out which it was actually going to do. So one of my fears at the moment concerns what's going on over here. Because I don't know anything about these totals yet, and I'm that slightly concerns me, that the red and the green totals over here. Okay. I'm noticing there's actually a lot of pressure on these digits, so I want to fill them in. So they can't be 1, 2, 3. They could be 4 or 5. They can't actually be 6. And then they could be 7, 8, 9. These at a minimum, these sum to 9. If they are somehow 4, 5. Oh, I guess I can fill in this cell. What is this for the row? For the row, this is 7, 8, 9, but there's actually... Oh, there's a 9 in the box, so these aren't 9. So this is actually 7 or 8. I apologize, by the way, to the viewer who has spotted that I broke something way early in this puzzle and I never noticed it and has been shouting at the screen for an hour that, why won't you notice that you have broken this thing? And is hoping it will not be broken in the published version of the puzzle. Good luck, fingers crossed. I'm hopeful it will not be broken in the finished version of the puzzle too. Is there a way I can put a given 2 down here that will both tell me this isn't a 2 size cage, forcing it to grow, but then also put a 2 into this orange cage and a 1, because there's going to be a 1. Yeah, I think that's a good idea, actually. I think I can maneuver orange in such a way that it has both a 1 and a 2 because of the given 1 over here, and then make it so that it has to have size 8, although I'm realizing now the 6 and the 5 are already disambiguated, so maybe that's less exciting now than it once was. But let's try it. So I think that the combination that would do that is, I think if this was a 2 and there was a dot here of some description, I think this is the sort of the combo that will result in the thing I want. So that forces green to grow. So now that goes like that at the very least. Orange now has to grow. Oh, maybe not. Where was it last time? Was there? Oh, right. Orange just can't take this cell. That's the point. Orange can't take that cell because orange and green aren't in a relationship. So this is something. Let's make it yellow. Yellow isn't orange, but orange has to keep growing. Okay, and so now the point is orange can't take this cell, because if orange takes that cell, then orange contains every digit except 2 or 7, and orange can't contain no digits you added to it would make it then sum to 40 like it's supposed to. So orange is now done in that direction, which means that orange takes this cell. But now, because of Sudoku, orange contains both a 1 and a 2. It contains a 2, visibly, and it contains a 1 up there somewhere. And so orange needs to take another cell. Orange needs to end up having size 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So orange needs to have size 8, meaning orange doesn't have a 5, which means that this digit is a 5. Yellow needs to continue, which means that green doesn't continue. So green actually has size 3. So red doesn't have size 3 now, but red might still have size 2 if we're not careful about it. Because sadly, this 2 that I put here did not prevent red from having a 2, sadly. Because red could have a 2 if it's exactly there. Now, this does resolve where the 3 goes in blue, and that makes this an 8-9 pair. Actually puts a max on this, because now this is at most 3, 6, 7. Oh, and this is not a 3, by the way. It's at most 3, 6, 7, which is 16. I'm trying to figure out if there's a way I can force this to grow. Not that I see as of yet. Okay, what is the extra cell that that orange needs? Orange needs a 7, so orange is taking a 7 in one of these two places. I should note. So one of these two cells is a 7. Yellow definitely does not have size 2 or size 3. Oh, okay, that's a good point. Okay, yellow is ruled out from having both size 2 because of this and size 3 because it doesn't have anywhere it could take a third cell with a 3 in it. So yellow is actually at least 4 cells in size. And I know that yellow does not take this cell. I should mark because that would touch green again, and it's not supposed to do that. So yellow needs to be at least 4 cells. So that forces the green total up a little bit, maybe. I'm trying to figure out if there's some combination of white and black dots that will sort of make this connection forced. But I don't think I have it yet. But I think I want to experiment with putting a dot here because of the fact that yellow has size at least 4, I think is going to cause some interesting things to happen. So now yellow now has to take this cell. It can't take that cell. So yellow actually still has to take that cell. Orange now has to finish here. So we get all of this. We know yellow doesn't take that cell. We know this is the 7. So that's not a 7. It's not a 7 in the corner anymore. There is a cell here. I'm going to assume it's not any of the existing colors, but it might possibly. Let's see. It can't be pink. Pink can't possibly take 7 cells. I think there's the slightest chance it's red. Okay, so I think if I can find a combination of colors for these dots that doesn't break, I think then the puzzle's basically going to finish with minimal stuff over here. But that is a humongous if, I fear. What if I put one here? Okay, let's try this. Okay, I think this probably won't break. Or sorry, I think this probably will break, but I think if it doesn't break, it's going to resolve the puzzle. So that forces purple up. Purple can't come here. Purple can't come here. So purple has to go up. Again, purple is not pink because then pink would be gigantic and pink's sum is only 19 or 21. But purple doesn't have size 2 or 3. So actually what this has done is to force purple and red to be the same color. Now, once purple and red are the same color, that has to do that. That has to do that. This is some other color over here. We'll make it red in memory of the color that once was red. So purple can't go that way. Red can't go that way. So, oh, but this doesn't work. I don't think there's any combination of colors here that would make this work. Unfortunately, because of the cycle of dots. I really liked the geometry part. But there's no way the dots work out, as I think we sort of painfully proved last time. If I make one of these double, then one of these numbers is enormous, and the ratio is 2 to 1. So there's no way I can, with white dots or doubling again, this is the wrong number of things to have happen, unfortunately. Oh, sorry, that one was real. That line is really there. But yeah, if I put a dot here, it does force purple to become red, and purple and red can't be the same color. Wait, does it? Couldn't purple finish here, maybe? Sorry, I want to redo this. Okay, so if I put that there, let's do this carefully. So there's an edge here for sure. This is some other color. We'll make it brown because everything else seems nearby. So this is purple. So this isn't purple. This can't be purple because of purple and yellow's intimate friendship. So this is purple. Now, purple definitely is not pink. As we argued, purple can't be red, because if purple and red are the same color, then we have a large problem. So purple and red are different. And so purple now, in order to have a size at all, purple actually, and so this is the option I missed, purple now has to take that cell and finish. And I think that's acceptable, actually. I think. And now red really is size 2. So we get a sudoku, we get a 2 there, an actual 2. And so now we can debate what these dots are, but at least the geometry got sorted out. Let's see. Okay, so this is not going that way. Let's see. Okay, so what can this number be? Okay, I'm going to write this all out, and I encourage you when you're setting, make your pencil marks more verbose than you would normally. So I'm going to just write these all out, and I'm going to rule out stuff that it actually can't be. So I know this actually can't be an 8, because then it would be in 2-to-1 ratio with a 20. Now, part of it is going to have to do with what this number is, because this number is at most, remember, oh, it's actually now that 7 actually reduced the maximum number here. The maximum that this is now actually 365. And we actually know there's a 5 in it, for sure, because of this 5 down here and that 5 up there. They pinch the 5 here. I realize. Okay, so this is at most 3, 5, 6, be 14. I don't know what I thought that was going to get me. It's at least 9, I guess, because it's at least 3, 5, 1. So actually, that means making this a white dot is maybe the most interesting combination, because if this is a white dot, that actually removes lots of these, because this is at most 9. So let's try that. So this is at most 9. So this is at most 10. So this is never a 9. Also, this is at least... No, sorry, I did that backwards. It's not that green is at most 9. Green is at least 9. And so that means red has to be at least 8. So this can't be 4. That didn't actually do as much as I hoped it would. I'm going to be honest. Oh, actually, one more thing I notice, actually. If I look at my Sudoku, actually, these pair of digits, this is actually a 3-5 pair. There's a 3 in here that's not there, but there's also a 5 in here by the Sudoku of these two 5s, and it's not there. So this is actually a 3-5 pair. Okay, so that's good to know. Okay, what if this is a black dot instead? If this is a black dot instead, we'd be saying this is a ratio of 2-to-1. Certainly, this would have to be the bigger number of the two. Because if this is a smaller number, then, well, this is at most 11, so this would be at most 5.5, which is too small. Much, much, much too small. So this would be the bigger number, and this would be half that. Okay, let's write out what the possibilities are for that. Okay, so this is, the red region is half the green region. So the green region needs to have an even digit. It can't be 2 or 8. So it'd have to be 4 or 6. Okay. If it were 4, that doesn't actually work. because that would make this total to 12. This would have to be half that, which would require that to also be a 4. That's not going to work. Okay, so let's hope this works. Okay, so what if this is a 6? This totals to 16. how do they both break? That's so terrible. If this is a 6, then I need this to total 16, and so this needs to be a 6. No. Sorry, that's wrong. It still doesn't work, but I just added wrong. This is a 14. So this needs to be 7, and this needs to be 5, and it can't be. Okay. So that being a black dot does not work, is the thing we learned today. So this needs to be a white dot. Okay, so let's make this a white dot, and now let's really hope that this doesn't break. So if this is a white dot, then what's the most this digit could be? Well, this sum needs to be at most 12 in order for that to be a white dot. So this needs to be 1, 2, 3, oops. This needs to be 1, 2, 3, 4. And it's not 2 or 3. So it needs to be 1 or 4. If this is 1, then this would sum to 9. And I could make this sum to 8 or 10. So I can't make it sum to 10, but I could make it sum to 8. If this is a 4, then this sums to 12, and I could make this sum to 11. So I think the answers are that with this being a 1 or a 4, I think we therefore get to say, okay, so this sums to either 9 or 12. And so this needs to be either 8, couldn't ever be 10, because that would require an 8 here. Oh, couldn't be 10 because of the 20 cage. And so if this is 9 or 12, then this needs to be 8, can't be 10, 11, which could be, or 13, which can't be. Okay. So I think that's correct. And I notice that does give me a pair in the column. So now actually the column, this digit is resolved. 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it's a 6. I think this digit is a 6. Okay, which conveniently can go there, I believe. Okay, so now, what is this cage going to want to be? Is the next question. Remembering this is a 19 or a 21. That's not going to impose a whole lot of constraint here. Okay, so if this is a white dot, I think we're already way too big here. Because if the minimum value of this cage happens if I put a 4, and I can't put a 4 and a 1. So actually, if I want to minimize this by if I want to make this yellow cage size 4, I have to put a 4 here. I have to put a 4 in this column, which rules out the ability to put a 1 in this column. So 6 and 4, I can't use a 2, so I can't use a 3. So I can't use a 5. I can't use a 6 or a 7. Oh, are these cells just incredibly, incredibly restricted? These cells are incredibly, incredibly restricted. That's the moral of the story. I hope this isn't broken. You may get to see Zeta cry. Let's see. Okay, so these are a 1, not a 2, not a 3. Could be a 4, not a 5, not a 6, not a 7, and they could be 8 or 9. Okay, so and I can't use both the 1 and the 4. So there's always an 8 and a 9 here somehow. Let's look at this. Okay, so let's see if we can recover this by sudoku, because I think that's what's happening. This is a 6-7 pair. That is what has happened, because both 6 and 7 are forced into these two cells. Okay, so this has both an 8 and a 9 in it. So that means the minimum sum here is 1896. And could be 4896, I guess. 4896. See, 8 and 9 is 17, and 6 is 23, and 4 is 27. That sounds like that's going to be way too big to be double this number, no matter what this number is, because this number is at least 12. No, it does not work. No matter what I do, it does not work. Uh, very sad, because this number is now huge, is the point. Yeah, because the 8 and the 9 in the column got bunched over here. It was all going so well until that point. So yeah, this needs to be at least 20, or sorry, this needs to be at most 24. So just recap, just to make sure I did this right. This needs to be at most 24, but it already contains a 6, an 8, and a 9, which is 23, which is I can include at most one more, but I don't have the size in it yet. So yeah, this definitely does not work, sadly and tragically, because the geometry of all of it was very nice. Okay, so I think we've got to unwind back to when we put in that dot. I think that is the thing we are currently missing. Okay, now I do want to note that actually this is already a 3-5 pair. Even at this point, before we even looked at it, that was already a 3-5 pair. So the rest of the column, let's see. We need a 1, we've got a 2, we've got a 3, we need a 4, we've got a 5, we need a 6. And then we've got a 7, 8, and a 9. Okay, so these are 1, 4, and 6 only. So let's see. This is at most in size, at most 3 and 5 and 6. 3 and 5 and 6 is 14. I was looking back at what pressure is already put on this cage. Maybe I should start going in this direction instead. Say this is at most 14. The problem is this red cage now really wants to have size 2. And I think we said, okay, I think this never works with, I think it's still true that this never works with a black dot. And unless red is a huge cage, maybe red is huge. If red is huge, it might work with a black dot there. Okay, over here, we definitely have a 7. There's no universe where I can make this a white dot, is there? Could I possibly make this sum to 15? Let's see, if I wanted to make this sum to 15 in 4 cells that include a 4. But they don't include a 3 or 5. So again, let's write in what these can be. I think this is also a good exercise to do for general purposes. It could be a 1. They can't be a 2, 3. They could be a 4, but not a 5. They could be a 6, but not a 7. And they could be an 8 or a 9. That one's not a 1. Okay, but I can't use both a 1 and a 4. So actually, because I can't use both a 1 and a 4, the minimum sum of these cells is actually already 15. And so this can never be a white dot, because the maximum that I could make this in a white dot relationship would be 15. So this is a black dot. So this is at most 28. Oh, interestingly, I had not appreciated this, but this is cool too. This cage can never have size 5, because if it wanted to have size 5, it would have to take a cell here, and none of the digits can contain a 5, because that 5 sees them all. So actually, unless yellow can have size 6, which seems unlikely, then yellow is stuck at size 4. Could put a dot up here with purple, although that's getting awfully constricted. So I don't want it to turn out that it's red. I don't have a lot of options. I guess it could grow to be up to this big. see, what if yellow doesn't have a 1 in it? If yellow doesn't have a 1 in it, then the minimum of these is 4, 6, 8, 9, which is 27. And the maximum that yellow can be is 28. So it could be actually. Wait, no. If yellow doesn't have a 1, these digits are 4, 6, 8, 9. They do sum to 27. And there's nothing I can do about it. And so then that definitely doesn't work because 27 isn't double this, and there's no way I'm adding more cells there. So there's definitely a 1 in yellow. Combining with that one tells me that there's not a 1 here. So this is 24 or 28. So let's see. Let's just blue sky it and see if I could do this in 4. Maybe I can't do this in 4 at all. If I have a 1 and a 4, and my target is 24. Well, if I have a 1 and a 4, my target's not 24, actually. If I have a 1 and a 4, my target is always 28. Because if I have a 1 and a 4 in this cage, then it matches up the 1 and the 4 there, provided this is a size 4 cage, which I think it probably has to be, but we haven't rigorously identified that yet. So 1 and a 4 going for 28. Oh, interestingly, you can't do that. Because if I have a 1 and a 4 in here, and my goal is to get to 28, then I would need to make the other 2 digits sum to 23, which I certainly cannot do. Okay, I don't think this works either, is the upshot of all of this. Okay, so I think I may have to actually rewind to where I put this here. Let's do that. Okay, so at this point already, this was a 3-5 pair. I did not notice it, but it was already a 3-5 pair, which is part of why I think we keep getting squeezed on all of this, is because this was actually already way more forced than it looked at the time. Trying to figure out if I want to force what red is now, because that 3-5 pair actually should let us do a pretty good deal of forcing what red can be if we somehow constrain where red's allowed to go. Like if I now put a blocker here, then now red has to have size 2, and the 2 has to go here. This can't be pink, so this is some new color. This might be yellow, maybe. Let's make it blue. Edge there, blue comes down. Okay, but I want to now just write in what all the possibilities are here. Okay, so could be 1, can't be 2, 3, could be 4, can't be 5, could be 6, could be 7, can't be 8 or 9. Okay, and just sort of walk through what the possibilities are for this based on that. Okay, so if this was a black dot, then I would need this to be. Okay, I think this can't be a black dot, but let's go through and make sure. This could be 3, 5, 4, which would be 12. I'd need this to be 6. That would need to be 4. That's not going to work. Or 3, 5, 6, in which case I would need this to be 7, which would require that to be a 5. That's not going to work. Okay, so yes, this can't be a black dot in any universe. So this is a white dot. I am noticing also, by the way, that blue is going to have to be at least size 3. I guess blue could be size 3 if it sneaks over and has its 3 right there. Interesting to note. I might look at that in a second after I figure out what this could be. If this is a 1, so first of all, this being a white dot means this is at most 11. So this needs to be at most 12. So the 6 and the 7 are immediately right out, which actually means that unconditionally this is a 6-7 pair, which actually means that unconditionally this is not a 7, which means that orange needs to get its 7 here, because actually that's not a 7, that's a 6. That's a 7. Don't worry, no one will be required to make that deduction in the puzzle, in case you are currently thinking, oh god, that's horrible. Probably. I mean, maybe, who knows? But I highly doubt I would go... I mean, the person who's solving the puzzle will know what color these dots are. So that helps a lot in terms of their options. Okay, so we're back to a similar place to where we were a moment ago. Oh, this is a 6-7 pair, by the way, as of this moment, because of that. Yeah, so this could be 9, in which case I would need this to be 8 or 10. So that would make this 6 or 8. If this is 9. But remember, this can't be 8, because then this would total 10, which would require a dot, and I don't want that. Or this is 12, in which case I would need this to be 11, so I'd need this to be 9. So I believe this is always 6 or 9. Okay, so let's write in these digits. So they could be 1, they're not 2, they're not 3, they could be 4, they're not 5 though, they're not 6 or 7, and they could be 8 or 9. 4, 8, 9, and both 8 and 9 are for sure down here. So there's definitely an 8 and a 9 over here, I guess is the upshot of all of that. And so these digits, they could be 1, they're not 2. They, in fact, definitely include a 3. Could be 4, but not 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9. So these are only from 1, 3, 4. And they definitely include a 3 for whatever that is worth. If I make this also a white dot, then it's going to force this cage to be relatively small, except it has to have at least 3 cells. Could maybe have 4, annoyingly. Could only have 4 if the total was 12 or 10. But if I make this a black dot, then this is now either 22 or 16, which actually plays interestingly with this pink cage over here. Let's see. Can I do anything interesting with this dot? So if I made this dot white, is there any universe where this cage is finishable? If I make this dot white, then this could be as high as 12. So this would need to be as high. So this could be as high as 13. With a 6, that would mean I would need at most 7 more. So I would have to go 4, 3 or 1, 4, 2, I think. I think 1, 4, 2 would work. Okay, let's try it. I think this might actually work. There's a chance. Oops, no, not there. Okay, so let's look at this. So this now needs to sum to at most 13. So I can't take 2 cells in this box, because if I take 2 cells, I'm taking an 8 or a 9, and I've already exceeded my maximum. So yellow is going straight out of the box. Yellow is definitely not blue, because yellow and blue have different parities, I believe. Probably. Well, in any event, yellow is not of size 5 if it's at most 13. So yeah, yellow and blue are different cages. Yellow went over here. Now, yellow can't take a 3 here. So yellow can't finish. Okay, so this can't in this universe. This can never be an 8 or a 9. I don't have to worry about the possibility that this is a 4-cell cage summing to 11, because a 4-cell cage summing to 11 can't contain a 4, and that's not possible. So that's not possible. So the only possibilities I have to worry about, and there's also a 6 in it. So the only possibility I have to worry about is that this is a 4-cell cage summing to 13. So that means my remaining 4 digits are 1, 2, and 4. So this is a 1 or a 4. And the other digit needs to be a 2, and it can only go here. And then we would have to put in my edges like that. And this would retroactively make this a 12 cage. So that would be the 4, and the 1 and the 4, and the 1 and the 4. This could be an 8 or a 9 or a 5. Now, this being a 12 means this needs to be an 11, so that would need to be a 9. It's 11, 12, 13. These aren't 1 anymore. Or 4, actually. Those are an 8, 9 pair. That 1 and the 4 look over here, actually, and make that a 3. So that's a 4. These digits, we now know. Boy, I hope this does not break from here. Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. Okay, what are these digits? These digits are a 1. We've got a 2. We've got a 3. We've got a 4. We've got a 5. We've got a 6. We've got a 7. So these are an 8 and a 9, which makes sense. That one's not a 9. Okay, so do I want this cage to sum to 22 or 12 or 10 or something? So if this cage wants to sum to one of the numbers that is... so this cage can't sum to 12, because if this cage sums to 12, it will create an unfortunate dot collision there. So I think I actually want to make this a black dot, which means I want to make this a 22 cage. And now one thing you can notice is that a 22 cage is going to require at least 4 cells, because even if it had a 3 in it, which it can't possibly, it couldn't get there. So I need to get to at least 4. Blue could take this cell, but blue always needs to take this cell in order to finish. Okay, I want to fill in. I think I want to fill in some random Sudoku stuff, just because I'm again feeling the fear that I'm going to have screwed up some Sudoku stuff and not noticed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is what's left here. So this is not a 1 or a 6. So this is actually only a 7 or an 8. Interesting. Okay. This is totaling, remind me, let's see, this was 16. So this was, I think, 17. Yeah, this is 17. So this is 16 or 18. So yeah, so this could go 7, 6, 3 is one possible option, I believe. Let's make 22. Okay, so one consequence of that is that now this cage actually can't be summing to 21 anymore, so it's summing to 19. So we can keep that in mind, because otherwise it would be summing to 21 and it would touch the 22 cage, and we don't want that. Okay, let's fill in these. I'm going to continue to fill in things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This one I know is not 1 or 6. It's 5, 7, or 8. Oh, and I know one of these two is 4, just from the row. Okay, this I know is not 1, 5, or 7. This is only 6 or 8. I don't have a lot of insight about the rest of the happenings that are going on. Let's see, is there any universe where I can get away with putting a dot here to force this to absorb these and sum to 22. Well, let's try it. So sudoku. So now blue looks like this. It needs to contain a 4 because it's of size 4. So that would be the 4. Now the rest of the digits need to sum to, because it's 22, the rest of the digits need to sum to 18. Let's see, this is a 4 in this universe, by the way, so this is not a 4. Okay, so what if I don't use a 5 here? Then I get at least 5, 6, 7. That is 18. In fact, actually, that works. Exactly, 5, 6, 7. If I do use a 1, then I have 1 and 4, and I need 17 more, which would require an 8 and a 9, and I can't have a 9 anywhere. So I can't use a 1. So none of these are 1. Oops. So, sorry, so these aren't 1 or 8. These are a 5, 6, 7 triple. So in fact, that's the 1 for the column. One of these is the 5. So that's not the 5. So the 5 in this row now would be there. Incredibly dangerous. I'm going to break it any second. You can just feel it coming on. All right, so these sum to 9. Okay, these are a 5, 6, 7 triple. So whatever this digit is, it's there in this cage, because this is wait. No, yeah, sorry. Where is this digit? This digit is in the blue cage. It can only go there. So this is not the 5. So this is the 5. That felt weird. Let me double check that. Okay, this is a 5, 6, 7 triple, which means this digit is one of them. It's gotta be that one. No, I think it's right. It just doesn't feel familiar to me. So that's a 5. So that makes that a 3 and that a 5, which makes that an 8 and that a 5. Got a 5 down in one of these two cells now. Let's see, let's write across what's left in this row. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Not a 3, actually. The 3 was a lie. Okay, this one's not an 8 or a 5. It's only a 7 or a 9. This one's not a 5, actually. It's not a 7 or a 9 either. It's an 8. It's slightly messy to see, but you can see it. It actually also, the 7-9 pair that's up here also removes that. So actually, this is now a 7 or a 9 with a 1 or a 6. This 5 has bounced over here. Made this a 3. That a 5. This cage is going to break now. Because this cage is now not going to be able to be size 5 anymore. At this point, we're getting close enough to resolving the grid that if stuff breaks, I might just sort of remove clues until it doesn't break anymore, and then reassess. Oh, wait, no, this can have size 4. This is going to have size 4, because it can't have size 3 or 5, because the 5s are all over the place. So this is going to need to have size 4. But I think actually this could go here. It's going to have to, because the 3 looking at it, actually, that's been forced for a long time. I just wasn't paying attention to it. And this total, remember, is 16 or 18. And so no way it has a size 6. So in fact, this region is done. We do get a 4 in one of these two cells, both from the rules and from sudoku. Sure, if I put this in a solver now, it would tell me a whole bunch of things that I do not know. 8 and 8. There is a cage here. It's going to have to go down. Oops, whatever color it is. It can't take that cell. Okay, this needs to total to 16 or 18, and so let's say it's got a 4 and a 7. If it wanted to total to 16, that would require a 5. That's not going to work. If it's got a 4 and a 7 and it wants to sum to 18, then it needs a 7, and that's not going to work. So if it's got a 4 and a 9, then it sums to 13. And if it wants to sum to 16, it needs a 3, which it cannot have. If it wants to have 4 and a 9 and sum to oh boy. Wants to have a 4 and a 9 and sum to 18, then it needs to have a 5, and it can't do that either. Okay, so this cage I think is broken if I just did this correctly. So I don't think this can total to 16 or 18. Because I think in order to total to 16 or 18, I'm going to need a 3 or a 5, and I've completely blocked 3, 5 out of this cage. Which means... Why did I use this dot? So I think what I'm going to try and do, and admittedly this is going to cause some amount of havoc, is I am going to try changing this dot from white to black while also removing this dot. So I'm going to get rid of that edge. Just take that away and make this dot black, just to give this cage more optionality as to which direction or which way it's going to go, and hopefully it'll finish, and then I can go back and hopefully resolve all of the various clues and whatnot at the end of this, provided that I can make the rest of it work, which is not at all a given, but that is one thing that's breaking, so I'm going to ease the tension there for the moment. There is a cage starting here. So I could make this, so depending on what this dot is, this could be 11 or 44 or who knows what else. It's going to have to grow. That's not up for debate, but let's try and do the rest of the sudoku that we can do and see if we find anything else that's broken. So let's see, this column, we've got a 1 and a 2. We need a 3. We've got a 4 and a 5. We need a 6 and a 7. We've got an 8, and we need a 9. This isn't a 3. This is not a 6 or a 7, interestingly. Okay, I would really like to say this can't be 3 cells that add to 10. That's almost certainly true now, right? Sadly, one of them could still be 2, annoyingly. Let's see. So I could not do 2, 3, 5, so I would need to have a 1. So one of these would be a 1, and then I would need to be 2 cells that sum to 9 without using 1, 8. I could use 2, 7. I could not use 3, 6, and I could not use 4, 5. Okay, so if this is a 5-cell cage adding to 19, then these 3 cells are exactly 1, 2, 7. Okay. Otherwise, the other option is that these are 2 cells that add to 10 without being 1, 9, 2, 8, 3, 7, or 4, 6. Actually, that's not possible. Okay, so actually this is forced to grow. And maybe the thing I said before doesn't break. Who knows? Let's try it. So it can't finish, so it's got to grow, if anything, unless the world is broken, which is very possible. So let's see. So in this case, I wanted 127 is, I believe, the digits that I said. So I need to have a 1 in here. Well, I need to have a 2 in here. So the 2's going there. And then these are a 1-7 pair, which will make that a 6, and a 7 and a 6, and an 8 and a 7, and a 9 and an 8, and a 7 and a 9. I've got a 1-7-8 triple in this row, so that's a 6. So that's not a 6 anymore. So the 6 in this column, actually that 7-9 triple actually does a lot of work. It's going to fix that's a 3, and so now that's a 6. Very, very cautious optimism. Very, very, very cautious. Okay, let's fill in the rest of this column. We need a 1, a 2, and a 3, and a 4. We've got a 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4 is what we have left. These aren't 3. That one's not 2 either. This one's not 3 or 4. It is 1 or 2. These aren't 1. That one's not 2 either or 4. This one's 3. So this is not 3. It is 2 or 4. I don't think I know which yet. So I got my perfect chocolate teapot triple, as Monsieur Le Goodliff likes to say. Oh, where's the other 2-4 in this box? The other 2-4 in this box has to be here, because there's nowhere else for me to put a 2-4. Yeah, the 2-4s looking over actually tell me that that's a 2-4 pair. So this is a 5, 7, or 9 to finish the box. Easy does it. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think 3, 6, 9 is what is left in this column. That's a 9. That's a 6 and a 9 and a 3 and an 8 and a 9. So that's not a 9 anymore. Hold the baby. Hold the baby. Uh, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9. Okay, and this is not 5, 6, or 7. So this had better be 8, which it definitely is, because just look at the box. So that's the 8. So these aren't 8. Those are 5, 6, 7. So that's the one that's 8, which maybe I could have seen if I'd have looked at that. The 5 and 7 are already here, so that's the 6. So that's not a 6. That 9 is making that not a 9. That 8 is making that not an 8. This cell is a 1, except it's not. A 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or a 9. This is a 1. Sorry, this is a 2 or a 9, making for a 1, 2, 9 mess in the row. This cell is not a 1, not a 2, not a 3. Could be a 4, not a 5 or a 6. Could be a 7 and an 8 or a 9, I believe. Okay, what a mess this box is, but I guess that's just because we don't have a whole lot going on in this box, so we don't really know a lot about it. And then over here, we don't have a whole lot going on. Okay. Maybe this is all that we have. Maybe all of this is actually fine, and there are no random collections of thingy things to go on. 2 is 9, and 8 is 17. Okay, so this needs a total of 34, so it needs to grow quite a bit. And this, again, this is 19. So, yeah, and this is 22. So, this would be white or black, as depends. Okay, if it was black, is it at all possible that this is now part of a cage that sums to 44? Would need to take every digit except one. Would be of size 8, so that is consistent at least. I am not sure. I know blue can't take that cell. So blue is definitely totaling to 34. That is forced. I had to take this dot away, which who knows what disasters are going to be caused by the fact that I took that dot away in the solve path, but we'll do our best. Okay, so in 34, my outies need to sum to 11, I guess, is the point. I'm kind of inclined to just try adding a random given digit and see if it sorts out all of these digits, and then I can look at the sort of the meta puzzle of where the cages go. But if possible, I would like to do it in a non-random way that would actually advance something. Oh, here's an interesting point. Okay, so there's a cage geometry point here that if this digit is a 9, it cannot get taken by this cage, which would force this cage down further, which would then at least provide us some way, shape, or form to continue thinking about life, the universe, and everything. So yeah, is there any obvious way I can put a 9 here other than to put a 9 here? Okay, I'm just going to try putting a 9 here just to see if it does anything that will then make my life easier. So I'm going to add a given 9 to this cell just to see if that breaks the puzzle or does anything interesting in the puzzle or any of the above. So if I put a given 9 here, then let's see, Sudoku logically, that becomes a 7, an 8. The 8 over there makes that a 1, that a 9, that an 8. The 1 looks over, makes that a 7 and a 1. Makes that a 4. Makes that a 2 and a 1. And a 2. And a 4. Not on the border. And a 4. That's 7, makes that a 9. Which gives us this 5-7 deadly pattern that I'm sure will be resolved in a satisfying and exciting way by the geometry, question mark. Okay, so all of this was by way of saying that this is going to extend down. So the blue cage is going to have to come here. And I still have not decided what exactly I want going on with this. Okay, so if this was a black dot, then this would need to sum to 11, which it absolutely cannot do because there's a given 8. Okay, so if I put a black dot here, this needs to sum to 44. So it needs to take every digit except a 1. Which seems like a tough ask, but maybe is doable. I mean, it certainly would force a lot if it needed to take every digit except a 1. Let's see. Or I could try and force a cage somewhere else to sort the rest of this out. It's a little too much real estate floating around here for my comfort. Okay, so is it true that oops, is it true to say that I cannot put a dot here or anywhere else? Because I would like to be able to like add maybe one more cage here. And coming off of this one would make the most sense. So I guess the most forcing thing I could possibly do would be to put a dot here, and it's probably going to be black because otherwise I'm making way too much total wise. So let's try that. So that means blue now has to come down here, and blue can't take this cell anymore, so blue has to come down here. And now blue totals to 15, 19, 20, 31, and blue is supposed to total to 34. So that does not work at all because blue needs 3 more, and it already has a 1 and a 3, so it can't get 3 more. If this was a white dot, then I would want this to be this would be a 21 or a 23. The last bits of these are always so hard to get to sort of come together once you've got all of this sort of so much is fixed in place. Like almost all the digits are fixed in place. So it becomes very difficult, of course, to continue to uh, all of this. Okay, so again, let's just think. But then it's screwed over by the existence of this 9, which is unfortunate. Okay, so I don't think I get to put a dot anywhere super helpful coming off of that. But I don't think there's any way for green to finish now unless I also put a dot here. The size business is what's making this last bit tricky. Is the fact that cages have to contain their size, which is, of course, the entire thing that makes you able to do the puzzle in the first place. So it's not exactly like I can get rid of that. This needs to take that cell. Oh no, except I need to have dots there and there and there. Oh no. Oh no, so many dots. I've already forgotten the rules of the puzzle. Putting something here broke, I think. What if I'm willing to put something here and here? Will that make my world a better place? Okay, let's try more extreme options. So this forces blue over. Blue still can't take the 9. Blue is currently summing to what? 15, 19, 20, 22 on its journey to 34. So it needs 12 more. Okay, so what if I copy whatever this thing is here? Okay, so blue needs to take 12 more. Let's make sure we can really do that in a unique way in this this universe of those two cells. So blue, let's just double check that. 15, 20, 22, and it's going for 34. Yep. So if blue takes this 3, what we need to show is that it's poison. So this would be, again, 22. This would be 25. We could no longer take the 9. Well, we couldn't take the 9 in the first place. Oh, so there's the option. No, this does not work. So we could take the 7, except now we're at what? 22, 25, 32. That's not going to work. I can't take that. So once I take the 3, I can't take anything else. Oh, I could take this. And then this would bring me to either 30 or 32, neither of which are actually possible. Well, I guess maybe the easy way to say it is what I've just proven is you always take this cell regardless of which direction you go. Now, this is a region, so it's going to come down like that for whatever total it is going for. I don't know yet. It's probably not going to work, but it might. And so if this is a 25, then we need 7 more. If it is a 27, then we need 5 more. And in both cases, we have to get it by taking this cell. Oh, no, that's going to require another dot. Okay, I'm going to see if it works. I don't think I like it, because that's going to require that to be a dot as well. That finishes this with a 7 and in size 7, so that part is good. Yellow is going to bend around and around and around, however far yellow has to go. So this is 34. So I could make all of these 33 or 17 again. 8, 3 is 11, 2, 4. Actually, oh, but there's got to be another dot there. Okay, no, this is just too many dots. I like you, but that's too many dots, as the saying goes. But it is interesting to note, I can put a 17 down here. Oh, I guess I can't really with that thing. How am I supposed to finish this? Let's see. I could maybe I can force yellow and blue to touch again. Is that possible? 15. Let's just double check. 15, 19, 20. So what I need is I need 14 more. See, I can't bend back up in this fishhook style, unfortunately, as much as that would be a very sort of like a zeta pattern for a region to have. Okay, and this is what? This is 9, 16, 17, 19? Okay, that's 19. This is 22. So I'm realizing this dot's purpose, I think, could be equally well fulfilled by a dot here. So if it would make my life better, I could instead make this, instead of making this touch to 22, I could make it touch to 19. Although I don't think that's really going to make my life any better. No, it's so close. Like it has resolved everything except for the stupid thing. What was the total here? The total here was 19. Okay, so here's an idea. Okay, instead of putting shape here, let's put dots here and here. Okay, so that's going to force there to be something here. And I want to convince ourselves that that something has to be connecting to this. Okay. So this is an 8 that's moving towards a total of 18 or 20. So if this 8 grabs this cell, then it's already at least 13. It certainly can't also grab that cell, because if it grabs both of these, it's already at 20. It certainly can't grab the 9. So even if it does come down, it always grabs this. So now we're at 11. Oh, those totaled at 18, actually. So actually, I don't need to put this dot here, I think is what I'm learning, in order to force this. Because there's another way. So this is 11. We've said this always has to come here, because otherwise we go down here and we get to 20, or we go something that's nowhere near having a size. So now we're at 11. We need 9 more. Now, if that 9 is in 2, it would have to be a 4, 5 exactly, because I need a 4. And there's nowhere I can take a 4 at all. So I need to take either a 7 or a 9. Now, I can't take this 7 because of the negative constraint, so I actually have to take this 9. And that, I believe, finishes that little region in. Okay. Oops. I'm just looking to see a plausible way to finish this this 34 cage, and then I can figure out how to force it, possibly. Okay, so this is 20 currently, and it needs to get to 34. Is it true that if I take this 8, I actually can't take the 5 or the 7? So that's 28. 28 means I need 6 more. And the only way I'm getting 6 more, actually, I can't get 6 more. So I actually can't take the 8. That is essentially impossible for a human being to see, but I actually can't take the 8. I guess it's not that bad, right? This is 28. So you just ask yourself, okay, if I take the 8, what happens to my sum? I need 6 more. And I can't make 6 except as 6, which I can't do. 1, 5, which I can't do. 2, 4, which I can't do. And 1, 2, 3, which I can't do. So I think actually we know, and I realized that this was true before I put this in here, so I might have to go back here. But I think actually if you ask the right questions, you can get here. So let's hope that this now resolves. So this is now 15, 20, 22. So I need 12 more. I can't take the 9. So I have to take this first 5, 7. And I can't take the 8 either. Okay, so 15, 20, 22. I need 12 more to go with my 5, 7. I'm currently at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm currently at 6 cells, and I can't take 8 cells, so I can only take 7 cells. So the thing I need to finish is this cell. That is true. Okay, so with the green thing, this is all forced, which does have the problem that it still doesn't resolve the freaking 5, 7 business. But there might be a way to resolve the 5, 7 business already. If I squint carefully. Okay, what if I try to put a black dot here? Is there a chance that this will force everything? Hope springs eternal in this household. Put a red here. Okay, no matter what, I'm going to need to get out here. My total is 17. I'm going for 17. So I come across like this, and it's not going to work because I'm going to end up at either 1 over or 1 under, and neither works. Okay. Even more ridiculous attempt would be to make this white so that this is now needs to sum to 35, or actually, maybe the natural way to do it actually is, instead of looking at that dot, put a dot here with a 20. And I think the reason why that might work is because that tells me I'm not allowed to take this cell. I can't get to 10, so my target has to be 40, which means I need outies of 5 if this is a black dot. Let's try this being a black dot. Yes, before you put it in the comments, I realized that I said I didn't want to have a lot of 10s and 20s and 40s, and now there's 10s and 20s and 40s all over the place, and I'm adding more of them as the puzzle draws to a close. So, yes, that's true. But we try to move towards acceptance in these difficult times. Okay, so this needs to sum to 40 because there's no universe in which it sums to 10. So I need to get to 40. So I'm starting with this 6. So even if I take every single one of these cells, the 1, the 4, the 2, the 3, and the 8, I always take this cell. Because that's not enough to get me there. That's only 11, 16, 24, and I need to get to 40. And so now I know this piece cannot go down. I know it cannot go up. Now, even if I take all of those, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that's only 7 cells. And the things I'm missing Yeah, so no matter what, again, just add it. That's 13, 16, 24, plus at most 7. I'm not at 30 yet. So even if I take all of that, I have to take this cell. Okay, so now, what if I take all of those? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If I take all of these, that works as long as I make this a 7. So there is n out. If I take this 1, now I've chopped off all of that. So now if I take the 1, I now have to get to 40 with only the cells over here, of which I could take 1, 8, and 1, 3, and nothing else. And that's only 6 cells, so that's not going to work. So I cannot take this 1. So now what if I take the 3? If I take the 3 over here, then I'm boxed into taking at most these cells, which I cannot do. So I cannot take the 3. And so therefore I have to take all of these cells, because now those are the only cells that I have as options. And so that's going to get me my 8 cells. And I'm supposed to take everything except a 5. So that's going to be 7 and 5 and 7 and 5. And I think this is a valid solved grid of this puzzle, I believe. Okay, let's really quick go through the totals and make sure there aren't any negative constraints. So this is 40. It really is 40, right? 11. And the 22, yeah, it has every digit but one I have not checked. And 22, again, not next to 19. 3, 4, double 11, not next to 20. Okay, I think... I think that this is a valid solved grid. Now, I should specify we changed several things, so I have no idea how the test solve is going to go in this thing. And the way we did the end was very grindy, and so I might add an extra clue to smooth out the very end there, provided that I've not completely broken every other part of the puzzle, in which case we might have to add all kinds of clues, who knows. Now, one thing that would be really nice to know is which of these digits are given digits. Let's see, there were 2 given digits that I put in this puzzle, I think. I think one of them was this 3. Oh God, where was the other one? Why, Penpo, why? Just tell me which of these is a given digit. Don't make me hunt for the slightly different font. Is it this 5? I can't tell. Was it this 2? I can't even tell. It looks so similar. I don't think it was that 2. Was it this 2? It might have been that 2. Am I even deluding myself that these even look different? Maybe this 3 that's the given 3 actually looks exactly like the others. Okay, I may have to try and test solve this puzzle and figure out where I wanted the given, because I think Penpa ate the given. So I thought it looked visually distinct, like I thought it looked blacker, but now I'm not convinced that this 3 that is the given 3 actually looks blacker than any of the others. Okay, so I think what I'm going to have to do is I think I'm going to have to try test solving with this. And then after I try test solving with it, I'm going to have to, at some point in the test solve, go, oh, yes, that's right. I put a given here, and then hope. Okay. My hope was that the grid would look sparse, and the grid definitely looks sparse. Okay, let's open this in CTC. Okay, so here is test solve number 1, and I know that I am down a missing digit. Or sorry, I'm down a given, which may have become unnecessary, but we're going to try and hunt down where the given digit was. Penpa aided. I do think the given digit that I added was the 2 down here, because I think I put a 2. That's right. I put a 2 down here because it would simultaneously let me force the structure of this and also force the structure of that. That was the given digit that I needed to add. Okay, so we're going to just put that 2 in, and we're just going to pretend that it was there the whole time. Yeah, I think I placed the 1 down here to resolve how this worked out. Because if I place the 1, yeah, that's right. Okay, I did also put a given 1 here. Okay, I remember that now. So there's a given 1 here as well. Oh, that makes the givens I put in 1, 2, 3. That's cute. We'll pretend it was intentional and that I remembered that even a little bit. So knowing that this cell didn't go here was very important. Yeah, why couldn't it come here? Oh, it was because there was a dot down here, wasn't it? Because there was I think it might have been that this was forced away because this was forced over in some iteration. Maybe not? Okay, I do know this is going to be rather large. I just don't know what it looks like. And the way we got, I seem to recall, that it to look like anything is that the purple needed to come over here. And I'm trying to remember or figure out like why I know which direction purple goes. Mostly, by the way, the reason why I'm so focused on like what was the solve path that I intended before is because I want to know I want to notice if it's something where I changed a clue and that made things work differently. Yeah, I'm gonna get tons of stuff once I figure out why that was forced. Did I miss a clue? I think somehow by moving this dot, I screwed up the world. Debating if I need another given would be a little bit unfortunate, but now I feel like I'm really being dense. It really was that this cell was not the 3-5. Why do I need that cell to not be the 3-5? That is the piece of the puzzle that is missing. Because a lot of stuff is going to get forced as soon as this is not what the 3-5 is. So I can try. See, I can try and find a given to add that will make it very obvious that this is not the 3-5. Like I could put a 7 here. Let's try that. Okay, so I think that's going to just force this geometry much better. So, so now this is a 3-5. Now this is a 3-5 pair. Yellow's total is 22. So yellow can't have size 6. Yellow only can have sizes 5 or 4. If yellow has size 4, the 4 has to go in one of these two cells. This is where the dot that I got rid of is going to come back to haunt us. So I guess the question is then, okay, if this is yellow, maybe we just have to argue that this is blue. I feel like before I argued that that was blue, I needed to know that these did not involve a 7, 8. Okay, we're somewhat swirling the Sudoku toilet at this point, I feel like. We've got to, I think I'm going to have to add something into the grid, probably just another given digit to sort of nudge people towards the right thing to look at. But I don't currently know what the right thing to look at to nudge people towards is. I kind of want to make that an 8. I don't know how much that is going to resolve this, because I would like it, what I'd like it to do is to fix the whole mess around here. Because being a 1 would fix a whole lot. Uh, I'm going to put an extra digit in. I'm just debating which digit will do the most damage / be the most aesthetically pleasing. Like, I think this 8 is what I want to try first. So we're going to try putting in that 8. So that 8 will give us that 2, will give us that 9, and that 8. So 10 plus 8 would be 18. I would need 4 more, so I'd have to take 1, and then I'd have to take a 3, except then I haven't taken a 5, so that doesn't work. I can't take the 8. So that repels the yellow back here. And now there's just nothing else that this can take, and so now we hope that we can figure out that that's a 5. It better be. 11, 18, 22, yep. And so that being a 5 makes that a 3 and that a 1. A 5 and that a 3, and that a 5 and that a 3. So if yellow takes this 3, we now have to finish in these 7 cells, which need to be all but a way of making 5, but my ways of making 5 don't work. So yellow cannot take this 3. So now yellow always needs an 8, and it can only get it there, so this is all yellow. And so yellow now needs to sum to 40, and that will only work if this is not a 5, because 5 needs to be the cell that I miss out on. So that's a 7, that's a 5, that's a 7, and that's a 5. And then we finish the puzzle. All right, I'm going to do that again from the start with the given digits that I put in. So I put in all of these given digits and see how I like the overall flow. I was actually a little afraid we were going to finish too much of the Sudoku beforehand with all the given digits I added, but I actually think it actually made the ending pretty smooth, and you need it to get this deadly pattern disambiguated anyway. So I think I'm going to be pretty happy with this once I do it. I want to make sure that all the steps are fairly well done. I don't want it to be too bumpy of a ride towards the end. So I'm gonna shut the camera off for now. I'm gonna come back. Actually, it's probably gonna be today, and I'm gonna go ahead and do a test solve of this. And then after I'm happy with it, I'm gonna have Tristan do a test solve and let you see what that looks like. But let's stop here for now, and I'll be back later with more of this process. Alrighty, as promised, I'm back, and I'm going to try and do a test solve with these givens that I've now sort of scattered throughout the grid. So I will say, part of me is a little sad that there's so many givens in this puzzle. at least as it currently stands. But another part of me has been really lately trying to emphasize putting in enough extra clues into a puzzle that the process of solving it is smooth. So, a pattern you'll often see is that you'll have this puzzle where it'll start off very smooth, and then when someone's setting it, they get to the point where they realize, oh, but now the thing I have is unique. And then basically, then they publish that because there's a lot of temptation there. It gives you the slickest looking grid and all these kinds of things. But often, the point where the puzzle becomes unique is not the point where it has become fun to solve from start to finish. So, I fully acknowledge that I could get away with fewer of these given digits, but I think it's probably going to be smoothest to keep these, and they're actually fairly symmetrically disposed. Uh, I've got the 7 and the 8 hanging out together. Okay, I'm hoping that this is a good combination. I'm not too worried that I've broken any of the logic because actually, I think for this puzzle, I think the coolest logic is mostly to do with the geometry, which the givens barely affect at all anyway. So I think we're going to be able to do it. Okay, but let's look through it one more time and just make sure I haven't done anything horrifyingly wrong by adding in these givens. So we'll start as usual by marking our cage boundaries. Now yellow is done. I find this end part very satisfying, but I think some people might find this torture. I'm not sure. This 6 is in a corridor that extends quite a ways. So the 6 can only take steps in that direction or this direction. It has no other options to it. And so we can actually put a bound on how far the 6 has to go, because even if the 6 took all of these cells, it would only sum to 7 plus 4 is 11, 16, 24. It only sum to 24. So we need to sum to at least 16 more. So blue actually always takes these 2 cells, no matter what. Now, blue can never take this cell because of the negative constraint, and can never take this cell because blue already has a 6. Now, if blue takes the 1 here, we completely cut off all the rest of that. And so blue now has to finish just with these digits. So blue could get that. Blue could take an 8, whichever 8 it wants, but that's only 6 digits, and 6 digits is never summing to 40. Because the outies of 40 are only 5, so there's at most 2 outies, so you need at least 7 digits. That tells me that blue can't take that, which extends the corridor in this direction that blue is on and extends the corridor over here. So we're now looking at... Oh no. Oh no. No, no, no. Sorry. Nope, no, no. I was briefly worried that, wait, couldn't I take either 8? But no, why can't I take either 3, 8? Could take either 3, 8. Oh no. Okay. So there is a slight issue that I have now realized, which is that in the solved form of the puzzle, blue is either going to take this 3, 8 or take this 3, 8. And I don't think I have a way within my tools at my disposal of disambiguating which it was. I somehow previously convinced myself that if it took this 3, then it would never finish, but actually it could take that 8. Oh, that's going to make this so much uglier. So, okay, so in this direction, we take at most this many cells. So these sum to 33. So I need at least 7 more. So I need at least these. These are always blue. And then, yeah, so then I need a 3 and an 8. And so I can't take. If I wanted to make this sum to, or if I wanted to do this in 7 cells, I would need to omit cells that sum to 5, and I definitely can't do that. So I need to do this in 8 cells, which does mean this needs to be a 7, and this needs to be a 5, and this needs to be a 7, and this needs to be a 5. But we don't know which one. So I think I have to do something really awkward in my rules and say that. Why did I miss this before? I guess this is why we test and test and test again. I think I, in the rules, need to say that this cell is not part of any region or something like that in order to disambiguate this. Yeah, I think I want to say this cell is not part of any region. I think that will make this end a little bit easier and also make it resolve uniquely. It's a shame, though. So let's add that at the bottom. Okay. Okay, I might find a way to fix that. I don't know. But once you have that this isn't part of a region, then you actually save yourself a little bit in terms of how much math you have to do here, because you then learn, okay, so this is not blue. And so then you figure out that all the rest of this is blue. I, by the way, always set it up so in these kinds of puzzles, you actually need to know the way the regions break down. So when I finally put this on LMD, the solution code is probably going to be the digits in the region here from top to bottom, left to right, or something like that, so that someone actually has to show that they understood the region structure. I might do that for like 2 different regions or something, like that region and that region or something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, something like that. I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Okay, so I want to read over the rules very carefully, and now try to actually make them right before I show them to another human being. So, normal Sudoku rules apply. Draw some killer cages into the grid so that both sides of every dot belong to a killer cage. Okay, I like that. Uh, Killer cages are orthogonally connected. Let me make sure that I explain. I think that might make people think the set of killer cages is orthogonally connected, which is not what I mean. Killer cage is a set of orthogonally connected cells. Okay, and then so I want to say killer cages do not overlap and do not contain repeated digits. A white dot between 2 cages indicates that their totals are consecutive. A black dot between 2 cages indicates that their totals have a ratio of 2 to 1. Happy with that. Each killer cage, or every killer cage, contains its size. For example, a cage of size 3 always contains a 3. Oh, and I have not bothered to write down the negative constraint yet. Uh, so here I need to write down the negative constraint. All possible dots are given. Okay, and so I think that's the part that's most likely to be misinterpreted. So I think I need to say more than all possible dots are given. So here's my fear. My fear is that someone will read this and think, oh, well, there's a dot between these 2 cages. So let's see if I can highlight in an example real quick. my fear is someone will think, I can put a red here because there's already a dot between these two cages, and so that satisfies the all dots are given thing. Because if the cages were actually in the grid, you would not need a second dot between the same pair of cages. But the entire puzzle revolves around the fact that you can't do that. So I'm going to also spell that out. Okay, so I've written this as, for example, if an edge has a cage on both sides and those cages have consecutive totals, there will always be a white dot there. I think that will make clear what's being made, although this is one of the things when I have Tristan solve this in a bit, I will I will let him read these rules and then see if he understands what that says. Hopefully he will. How hideous does this look if I open it in CTC? The rules almost all fit, except for this very last rule about the shaded cells not part of anything, which I is very sad. Very, very sad. The end part, the geometry, the way everything ends up sort of tangling together spaghetti-wise at the end is very cool. So I like the puzzle overall. I'm just a little annoyed that I have to put this here. This is like worse than a 2-cell thermo. But we will put it there. Okay. Now, last thing I need to do, and this part will be quick, but I want to make an example grid. So I'm always going to make the example grid in a 6x6. I'm going to turn on ranks solver, enable true candidates, and then I'm just going to put in some random digits. We're definitely going to turn in the solution count feature. Could be that was meant to be a 5. It could be a 4. That could be a 3. Could be a 2 as well. Could be a 1. Could be a 6, a 2, and then I'm going to fill that in as well, so it'll look better in the version. Okay, so then that's a 3, and then I'll just type all of these in, if I can type them in correctly. Okay, so this is going to be MIA example by zetamath. Okay. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to open this. Oh, I guess I need to actually do the shading here, don't I? Okay, so let's make this a cage. So that sums to 11. So all I'm doing here is I'm making a grid with a picture so that someone who reads the rules and wants an example can have it. So the whole thing I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to construct a cage where there's a long edge that they share so that there's a whole bunch of dots gratuitously all over the place. And these numbers, these digits are making my life complicated. Okay. This'll do it. Okay, so 2, 5, we'll go ahead and put in a cage. And so now we'll put 3, 1, 4, 6 in a cage up here. And so the difference is here. This is 8 and that's 7. That's a difference of 1. And then just to really drive the point home that every dot is given, we're going to put all these dots up here. And so you'll see, yes, every single one is given. And just to make sure, 14 and 8 do not need a dot between them. Okay. And let's see, do I want to put in any more? Well, are there any more that if I added them, it would make more clear what was happening? I don't think so. I think this is probably good. Let's see. I see that I can put in a 2, 4, 3 here that'll touch two things, so I'll fill that in just because I can. It's 1 different from 8. It's nothing different from 7. It is in a ratio of 2 to 1 with that. Now, is there any chance that it will let me put a K or a total in each of these? Let's see, border. Just so that I can write in the total. So in this case, the total is 14. Here the total is 7. Here the total is 8. Here the total is 9. Here the total is 9. Here the total is 18, right? Hopefully. 7 and 11, yep, 18. And here the total is 17, 6 and 11. Okay. And let's see, is there any non-obnoxious way that I can indicate that I've included the size of the cage? Like, I kind of want to circle it. I guess I can circle it, but with no background. Is there a way to make the background clear? Maybe there's not. Okay, maybe I'll just put circles over it. All right, I think this is a sufficient example for someone to see. So then the question is, in the actual rules, do I mention the example? So on the LMD page, I will eventually call out in the example all the specific things. I think I won't now. I think for now, I think I don't want that in the actual link for the CTC thing. I think the CTC thing's already a little verbose. All right. So next thing to do after I have this puzzle that I'm mostly happy with, even if I am growling internally about this cell, I'm going to sugarcoat this, and in the final release, I'm going to say this is the bet cell, and then I'm going to mention that the bet cell is not part of a region or something like that, so that I can pretend that this was a deliberate choice and not a horrible thing forced onto me because I didn't notice something at the very end. But I'm going to send this to Tristan, send him the example, and then I'm going to let you watch Tristan solve through the puzzle for the test solve and see how that goes, and then we'll see if I make changes based on that. And then I'll send it to some other testers and see how that goes after that. All right, but that's all you're going to hear from me for now. So next you're going to see Tristan attempting to test solve MIA. See you then.